Okay. Is the second page on that? Yeah, so if you, yeah, and then if you just flip the page over.
Thank you for your patience, everyone. You are now live on YouTube and system is recording.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul.
All right, ready to get started.
And I
All right,
am.
welcome to the OHV Advisory Council meeting. Let's go ahead and go around the room and make introductions. We'll start, Cheryl, down on your end, and we'll just work our way around.
Cheryl Butler, the sixth rep.
Jason Blankenagel, at-large representative. Scott Wheeler, a motorcycle representative. Eric Nelson, I am the dealership representative.
I'm Ron Tolman. I am the full-size four-wheel drive representative.
Rachel Toker, I oversee the state OHV grant, also known as the Fiscal Incentive Grant for the Off-Highway Vehicle Program.
I'm Tommy George, and I'm on the OHV Council, a member at large.
I'm Fred Christensen, safety.
Kirk Chester, snowmobile users.
Becky Steinfeld, OHV.
Chris Fowler, State of Utah Off-Highway Vehicle Program.
Oh, yes, and we got two people online. It looks like Brody, are you on there?
This is Brody Johnson, the ATV representative.
Okay, thank you. And Tyson?
Tyson Todd with the Trust Lands Administration.
Okay, is there anybody else online that I'm missing?
I don't think so.
Doesn't look like it. Okay, well, welcome to our meeting. We got a handful of grants to go through today. Before we get started, Chris, did you have any opening remarks for us?
No, I just want to thank each of the representatives of the OHV Advisory Council for joining us this evening. In front of you, if you haven't already filled out, there's a packet of information which contains the agenda, the previous meeting minutes, along with a volunteer agreement form. If you haven't filled out that volunteer agreement form and provide that to me just yet, get that to me. Just fill out the yellow sections, and then we'll reconvene as needed. That's all I have to add. Thank you, Mr. Chuck.
All right, I'm assuming that everybody has had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting held on May 4th. Those had been emailed out, I believe, a couple of different times. I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll entertain the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay,
I'll second it.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the public comment, and this is a little different than what we've done in the past. What we've decided, or what the program has decided to do, is to have a period of time where we could accept public comments before we get started.
Hey,
Yes.
I don't know if you noticed, I sent out minutes for me too.
Oh, okay.
Did you want me to just read
There's
them?
two.
Okay. Yeah. All right. May 19th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Have any input on them? Chris?
Yeah, just a point of order, because they are not listed on the agenda, what will need to happen, and what I might encourage is for those May 19th meeting minutes, discussion and or an amendment to the agenda to reflect those, and then we cover those meeting minutes at the end of our regular meeting, because there could be some members that have not had a chance to review those.
Okay.
If that sounds reasonable, so you would need to amend the agenda to include those May 19th meeting minutes at whatever time the council members feel relative, just a point of.
Okay, okay. So has everybody had a chance to see those or review them or look at them? You did get them in the email.
I think,
I was,
I think the
Go ahead.
date just needs to be changed on amending it. I think the date just needs to be changed and then potentially
Okay.
the timeframe.
Okay, so we have two sets of minutes that we were given. They both say May 4th on them, but the second one is actually the May 19th. Oh, no, you're shuffling up.
Interesting, because when I emailed the agenda out, I had redone an agenda.
Right.
But then I wasn't able to print it out. Rachel printed out a different one.
Okay.
oh,
So the second one,
The May 19th minutes don't have.
Is the May 19th.
which one?
The one that's missing Kirk is the May 19th.
Okay. So the one that, that doesn't have Kirk and the council members present.
Okay.
So since that is not on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to include voting on those, and if we needed to, we could push that maybe to the end, so anybody that didn't have a chance to review them can glance at them.
I would make that motion
Okay,
to amend the agenda to discuss the May 19th minutes
okay.
at the end of the meeting. That gives everyone an opportunity to make sure they've read it.
Can you guys say your names when you do the motions?
Sorry, Tommy George?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Yeah, so I think moving forward, Mr. Chair, what I would do is I would encourage each member to state their name
Okay,
and then their vote, just for clarity, since we are on YouTube,
okay,
just so people understand.
okay. Should we redo that for this one?
I
Was
think-
that your recommendation?
I would just say moving forward,
Moving
because we
forward,
haven't
okay.
had any nays.
Right.
So if we needed
Okay.
to, then we could go back and say, hey, but we haven't had any, so I
Okay.
just would move.
Great, thank you. Any nays to this motion? All right, we'll go ahead and bring that back up then at the end of the meeting. All right, so this takes us to the public comment period, and as I was saying, the program has, it is kind of different than how we've done our meetings in the past, is to take a few minutes for the public to make any comments. There's a few ground rules that we wanted to lay out there. The first one is that any comments have to be OHV related. And second, that it's not an opportunity for the council and a public commenter to have an argument or a deep discussion, maybe answer a few questions if needed. And the last item is that the public comments are limited to 3 minutes. To my knowledge, we don't have any public commenters in the room that I can see. Have we had any public comments Becky submitted via email or via some other?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that was easy, wasn't it?
If I could make a quick comment, I wholeheartedly agree with the program's decision to handle that way. It's way more professional. It gives the public an opportunity to voice their input and their understanding of a project, but it also keeps some semblance of order and respect.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Chris, would you like to take a minute and kind of tell us a little more about the background on this?
Yeah, and thank you for the comments, Tom, and thank you, Chair, for allowing me an opportunity to speak on this. You know, going around the state and looking at how different agencies, organizations run their meetings, and understanding where we've come over the last couple of years with the fiscal incentive grant, just felt that that was it's a trial and error. So I thought, hey, let's try it. Let's see if we have public. We have had, public participate in the past, not ironically at this meeting. However, we have had those participants. And so I think if the council's comfortable that we continue to keep that as an option moving forward, in case there are discussions about OHV related topics, some of them could be travel management planning in the southeastern or southwestern portion of the state. It could be something concerning an agenda item. It could be something concerning that the council recommended a particular change in administrative rule for the program, and someone disagrees with how that has occurred. This vets a public comment period at this level, and then of course moving forward as we take those into other commissions or board meetings, there's another opportunity for the public to comment then. So two different approaches that I think are very transparent and very open for the public ability, and making that commitment of knowing that, hey, we are trying to do the best we can in order to ensure that we're giving the public the opportunity to be an active participant.
Great. Well, thank you. Guess we'll test it out next time a little.
It is rather ironic.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry, point of
Please make it.
order. You're gonna probably get upset at me. Mr. Chair, what I would say is that probably I would take a motion to go out of public comment period and following the agenda item.
Okay, because we're prior to the
Yeah.
timeline. I would, as there are no public commentors here, I would accept a motion to move on with our agenda a little bit early.
I'll make that motion. This is Eric Nelson.
I'll second it.
All right, and then in light of the recommendation given to us by the program, let's go around and state your name and your aye or your nay.
Cheryl,
Jason, aye. Scott, aye. Eric, oh wait. Yeah, I mean,
Still
motion.
vote. Yeah, you can vote against your own motion, right? Ron, aye.
Tommy, aye.
Fred, aye.
Kirkchester, aye.
Brody,
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
I like that motion to get ahead of schedule. Let's do that.
For one.
Let's do that throughout the whole meeting. That would be awesome.
I know.
All right, well, that gets us now to our FIG grants. We have, to my knowledge, we have 20 grants to review. We also, just as an FYI, there was one of our grants, and maybe I'll let Rachel, will you just take a minute and explain the grant that carried over from last time?
Yes, let me just.
And we'll address that
present.
maybe at the end of the rest of these.
Yeah, so in our last quarter, we had a lot of questions pertaining to the San Rafael Swelled OHV campground improvements. What we did is it was voted on and it passed with flying colors, but the OHV program wanted to go in and figure out a little bit more about it. We had some questions as to representation of the fiscal incentive grant, and then we also had questions on their budget. So after this, we brought it to the board, let them know that it was recommended by the OHV Advisory Council, but we did want to hold off on having it approved. We're just letting you guys, everyone know here that it has slightly changed the budget. It has just decreased it, I believe, from $50,000 requesting to $48,000 being requested of FIG. We just wanted to go through and clarify a little bit more. So we can either go through and redo the scoring or just go with the past scoring that was done last quarter.
What were the budget improvements?
It was, so on their original budget, they had us also paying for, I believe it was a number of other benches, but they were not going to be placed in OHV locations. So ultimately, they would not be utilized by OHV, OHV users. So we just kind of received further confirmation of it. And also that what they would be doing to represent and show appreciation to the fiscal incentive grant. Yes.
Is everybody familiar enough with what this was, or does anybody need more information about the grant?
Is that the one was for the table?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so you changed it to $2,000, is that what I understand?
Yes, because after discussing it with the project manager, we felt as though their original ask, the $2,000 that they wanted also to make it 50 total, didn't pertain to OHVs.
Okay.
Did you have anything to add on that, Chris?
No, I do not.
Cool.
Thank you.
I'd make a motion to approve it then.
Okay. For the
This is Tommy
recommendation.
George. Yes, the recommendation.
Great. So the score is not going to change. We're just bringing it back to the board and letting them know that it's been re-recommended. So,
do I have a second on that motion to re-recommend?
This is Brody, I second.
Okay.
Okay.
And let's go around the room. Cheryl?
Jason, I'll abstain because I didn't review the original. Scott, yes. Eric, aye.
Ron, aye.
Tommy, aye.
I think I should sustain since I wasn't there. Chester, aye.
great.
Oh, by the way, Fred.
And Brody
Aye.
and Tyson.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to the new grant applications. Before we get started, Chris, did you have any words of wisdom or whatnot before we get started on these?
I do not.
Any
know.
input? Rachel, did you have anything
Yeah.
you want to discuss outside of the individual?
No, I just kind of wanted to highlight what some of the applications were in comparison to either the past quarters and
Okay.
just a positive thing.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please do.
Please.
All right.
Educate us.
Thank you. So upon reviewing all of these, the OHV program believes that all requirements were met. There was one application that did not receive a secondary signature in the time frame that it was required. So I'm leaving that application open to the advisory council to discuss how they feel they should go about it. But other than that, I mean, I reviewed 5 of these applications early, which you are able to do if you email it to me a week prior to the closing date. And also, we have 7 new project sponsors this quarter around, and then also we have 2 repeat one repeat application, but who is also a new potential project sponsor. We see this time around, I know that last quarter there was kind of a push for more trail work, and I believe that out of the total, 27 of those pertain to trail work. That's just something to highlight, as well as we have 5 search and rescue, also known as SAR applications, in comparison to, I believe we had 0 all last fiscal year. So it's a major improvement in some areas, well, major improvement all around. But just with everything else, it's nice to have that variety. So,
It gets the money into fixing the trails.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
what we're supposed to do.
Great. All right. Thank you, Rachel. Let's go into application number 1, Sand Mountain OHV staging area. Rachel, do you want to give us the rundown on that real quick?
Yeah, the rundown on this is it's from a nonprofit group. They are requesting $100,000 with a match of over $149,000, so 60% match. It's going to be taking place in Washington County. Ultimately, what they want to do is they intend to create a new staging area to replace the old 0.6 acre staging area. They intend to build a 5-acre gravel staging area with 50 delineated parking spaces and a 2-stall pit toilet. This is for trail work, and they also had 4 letters of support. And I don't know if it matters, but I also reviewed this application, and this is their first time applying. Does everyone want me to kind of briefly highlight what the application is about, or have we already done our research on that? Okay, great. Done your research? Love it. Thank you. Okay.
Is there any comments or questions on it?
I do, this is Scott. I just wasn't sure of this $120,000 cash match. I go over the side over there and it only comes up to $86,000. So I wasn't sure where the rest of that matching cash was coming from. And so I wasn't sure if I missed something in there.
So it looks as though theirs is based off of a price quote, and it's 120 excavation. I know that there
You're
was.
talking about these
Yes.
3
I missed that.
Drax, UPLA, and U4WA
Right.
matches doesn't add up to the 120.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if there was another source there that they left out, or if they added it wrong, or what it was. So that's the only question I had on it.
It looks to me like the excavation contractor is donating time.
That's true.
Oh,
So the cash match is donated labor excavation. So it may not be a cash match, it should probably be in kind, but the excavation company that's handling the installation of the gravel, I think they're just asking to have their hard costs covered, which is the gravel, but the labor costs and such are covered under that.
any other comments or questions?
I think it's needed. It gets so congested down there. I'm kind of curious how you keep people from getting back in the park without.
Type of control.
Chris, do you have any comments on that?
Oh, thanks for asking me, Eric. So I've been talking back and forth with the applicant for approximately 6 months. This was something that, with the creation of the highway down there, we are losing trailheads, and that's just, it's a municipal setting. So some of that accessibility is starting to be impacted because of trying to find arteries and the ability to alleviate travel corridors in and around the Washington County area. The applicant has done a great job of reaching out, like her has said, to particular companies that are willing to donate time, labor, things along those lines, along with seeking private donations. The St. George BLM field office is a strong supporter behind this. They went ahead and pushed that through. And when I said push that through, the clearance is already in place. And when I spoke with the applicant, I said, look, if you're going to have them clear it for 5 acres, think where we're going to be in 30 years. So they cleared it for 25 acres. So you're going to see potentially in years down the road an additional expansion of this particular parking lot area. But we wanted to go in and set the stage right out of the gate so that we knew we had that flexibility. And so what this trailhead does is it assures access, it provides public amenities, and all the partners are on board with that.
Right, that's good. Is the environmental impact study done for the full 25? So
Yes.
This will stay on file. So when they expand, it's just dirt road.
Correct.
I think this is a great project.
Oh, it's definitely made it down there.
I don't have any, there was probably a question on the budgetary items, but in reviewing the actual bid from the excavation contractor,
It all make,
it was pretty clear that he's donating a significant amount of resources to this project, so.
Good. Well, I just want to make a quick comment that I'm gonna recuse myself from voting on this because Utah Four-Wheel Drive Association has included cash match for it, and also I believe had a letter of support. But I'm obviously in support of it based on that. That area is growing and needs so much. It's much needed, and that's all I'm gonna say on it.
Okay.
Yep.
I would make a motion to approve this application, then, if that's.
Let's
So
vote.
let's vote.
Yeah.
Okay, I will go through and I will alter it each time. I know Cheryl, you're always the starting one. So I will make sure to go through and alter it. But this time around, Cheryl, you are beginning.
That's our-
And are we just doing past like yes or no?
Yes or no?
Okay, yes.
Okay. Brody,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
Eric. Sorry, Fred.
Yes.
Okay, now Eric.
Yes.
Okay. Kirk,
Yes.
great.
I will abstain.
Yeah, got you. All right, so the next one we have is the ambulance side-by-side from the nonprofit Ephraim, correct? Ephraim?
Kiefer. That's okay.
I'm still a transplant. Okay,
It's not moved on.
You can only use that for the first year.
I know.
3 years.
4 years. So.
Coordinate your vows together.
Yeah. Okay, so this is for it's taking place in San Pete County. They're requesting a little over $28,000 for a total project of $35,000. They also sent theirs in early. This is a search and rescue item, and they have 2 letters of support. This is, again, the first time for this applicant to be applying. And I mean, if there's more information that you would like, I can provide it, but since the review has already taken place, yes, go ahead.
I have a question on, we're given a guideline of 5% of the budget or 5% of what we're spending goes towards search and rescue. Are we anywhere near that with all the applicants today?
So that, and again, that is just a number that is kind of a holder. It's a starting point, but it's not set in stone. It's just something to go off of. So with everything, if we were to potentially fund everything, search and rescue would have $536 remaining for it. Again, we can alter those numbers as we see fit. It's just a starting point. And then after everything is recommended, this should update to let everyone know how much is left over and how much we've used. So,
This is Tommy. I don't mean to sound like a stick in the mud,
yes.
but I was part of the original group of folks that were able to do that. And it was a starting point, but it was also meant to be a guideline too. So we should keep that in mind, just in my opinion, as we move forward.
I was just curious how close we were getting.
Well, at 536,
Pretty
we're
close.
like pretty dang close now.
Is that for the year?
And I wouldn't want to not support an application in any way, but it does need to be still considered as a guideline, I think.
I think when you're looking at applications like this, we need to make sure that it's supporting the OHV community, where search and rescue can kind of run on a tangent, or if they come in and are applying for scuba diving gear, probably need to have that conversation. This is a direct application to OHV. It's providing them access to provide services on trail.
Chris, do you have any input on that?
No, obviously, like Tommy has mentioned, coming out of the gate, looking at that starting point of the new fiscal year. So our new fiscal year, I wanted to answer Scott's question, started July 1st. So we have a balance the way we've thrown up there for the rest of the budget year, $500. I don't believe that's going to cover a lot of applications in the next 3 quarters of our current budget year.
And that's if we approved all of these
Yeah.
today. We would
And I'm-
use up that.
Yes, and I'm not saying that should be a factor in this, but I think it's something that should be weighed in the back of your minds, that none of us can forecast the applications that we're going to receive in the future. Upon reviewing this particular application, I don't believe that they did, how can I say this? Don't believe there was enough information provided to accurately reflect off-highway vehicle use associated with their ambulance responses. And in no means I'm not
We've done that in the past.
And so I think it should be maybe considered to say, well, what are those numbers? Are they doing 20? Are they doing 200? St. Pete County obviously is a heavily used off-highway vehicle recreation destination and day use visited area. And I don't want to take away anything from those services or strains on Ephraim. But I also come back and say, what, in addition to that, what is the county responding to on their side? Remember, this is I think the overall application description is based upon a UTV to provide ambulance assistance with OHV use. And I may be inaccurate in that and fall back on Rachel to correct any mistakes that I threw out, which will probably everything. So,
On page 12, section in the form, they refer to the number of callouts and the number of ATV callouts.
They do.
And then on page 13, we anticipate using roughly 500 miles per year, 90% OHV response related.
Yeah, and they said, I believe about 10% of it will be used for non-OHV, and their percentage match based off of that is they're matching 19% of the cost.
They had 283 callouts last year. Obviously, not all of those require this response, but they've had 12 ATV related calls in 2020. So,
Now say that number one more time, please.
so they have a total of 283 callouts for the actual search and rescue.
Okay.
Of those, 12 were Utah ATV related, where they had to have access with a ATV or UTV.
How does that correlate to 10% of the calls then not
Well,
being
the anticipation of
OHV related?
500 miles per year on the use of the actual UTV on response calls. Because they're talking about ambulance rides.
So what they're saying is they would not have probably used this machine on most of their calls, just on the ones where they needed it.
Correct.
And they're guessing that the ones that they needed it would have been the 90%.
Yeah, they're looking
OHV
at
use.
personal search and rescue vehicles.
This is Fred. I questioned when I was reading some of these, whether they were including the four-wheel drive. Because when you look at the numbers, it don't include the four-wheel drive.
The vehicle.
And I was looking at one vehicle that showed 42 incidents on four-wheel drive.
So it looks as they want, seems as with the funding, they're looking to purchase a Can-Am Defender Pro Limited.
Yeah.
But I
What
don't,
else are they adding to it? I'm sorry, I
So
didn't see
the
that.
head of the vehicle had a
they're doing a cash match to match for the machine itself. So what they're asking for is for the machine partially, and their match is coming out of the cash match for that. And then the rest of it is for a dual head remote mount, as well as attachment points for titanium rescue litter tapered with strap load. It looks like a Bluetooth mic and earpiece, and then there are some other costs that they say that they're probably additional $10,000 more, but they say that they will cover these costs on their own.
So they're putting a rescue leader in the back of the bed.
Right.
Yes.
The machine's 28 going.
Yeah.
So
How available is the machine? They talk about it not.
nearly
being available.
impossible. It'll be a 2022.
Yes, but we do allow a 2-year time frame for grants.
Any additional discussion or questions?
This is Brody. I just have one comment, if I may.
Yes, please.
So I just would like to remind the council that search and rescue is an important group. We may not totally agree with every little thing that they do. They are a volunteer organization, and keep in mind, if you're the one that needs to be rescued, you're hoping that they have that machine right there. And so, or if it's your wife or your children, your grandchildren. So when we're voting, think of that. That's all I have to say.
Okay,
Would we like to vote?
let's go around.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so Brody, we're gonna start with you first.
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes, please.
Fred,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and then Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So the next one is for the marketing of North Lake Powell Rally in Bullfrog Valley. It is from the project sponsor Friends of Tickaboo. That is a nonprofit. It is expected to take place in Garfield County. They are requesting $7,000 for a total project cost of $9,000. So this is for a tourism grant. In the past, they've had a very good turnaround when it comes to grants completion. And I know that, I don't know if everyone saw this, but I had a question on the budget, so I actually reached out to the applicant regarding it. Ray Golden is also listening to this, so if questions do arise, he is able to reach out to us and call and answer those questions. The question that I had was pertaining to the budget and the commitment to food and requesting funding for food. I know that Chris and I briefly spoke about this when we were both reviewing this, and his response to it, where I asked the question of, pretty much the question was, in the past we have not funded food. I suggested potentially altering his budget, and his response was, I was thinking of food as a marketing expense, much as the same way political groups utilize dinner parties as marketing events. How can you pay $1,000 for dinner to attend a political speech? I was thinking the food preparation would be utilized as a marketing tool to help attract a good amount of people. When you think about it, if our marketing efforts draw 1,000 riders to the rally, then we'd spend $4,000 to $5,000 on food prep. But if we only draw 100, then the cost of food is only $400 to $500. But the food is a marketing tool to sweeten the reason for attending the rally. And then he ultimately said that if we don't approve it, that portion of it, that he's okay with it. And Chris is on his phone, so I'll discuss what we talked about.
He's researching.
I'm listening.
Are you? Okay.
This isn't my first rodeo doing two things at once.
I'm not gonna comment, okay?
So what's your question, too?
No, it was our discussion on
About the food being part of the
the food.
application, and if
Because
we
if
should,
there's value, if the advisory council finds value in this application, then is there a way that we could potentially, if they don't feel comfortable funding food, could we potentially fund a different portion to make up for that cost?
Did you guys determine if that wasn't okay? Like, if their
So-
explanation wasn't okay? To me, that's what I would want to do.
So I'll put my phone down so I can focus.
Now you-
So my as a program coordinator, it is would be very difficult for me to look at any of you with registered machines to say that I took your $35 to fund
lunch.
or dinner or breakfast
Yeah.
at an event.
Yeah.
When I firmly believe as a program coordinator that money should be back on the ground maintaining facilities that exist, enhancing new facilities, and trail maintenance and developing new trails. How do I look at somebody that's in northern Utah that didn't know that there was a rally in the valley? And, you know, they didn't get an opportunity at meals. I think there's some wiggle room in this application. And one of the wiggle rooms that Rachel and I discussed could be that I think food is a red flag. I think swag is a red flag. However, they are researching and have a paleontologist lined up from Wheels neighborhood out of the College of Eastern Utah. So that particular professor, I think it would be more valuable for the council to consider, look, we'll help assist the funding of this guest speaker or guide, if you will, for this particular aspect into things, because it gives the participants an opportunity to be educated about the area, to see some of the cool features that exist that sometimes they get overlooked. We do that at other jamborees. The National Jamboree this year, we were scheduled to do a dark sky event. Of course, every time we try to do a dark sky event, it rains. But we're revisiting some of that in Miller County on other options. So that would be some of the things I just might pitch out of saying, I think it's a very worthwhile project. It's consistent with what the council has reviewed historically and what we've looked at. But I think funding food, we're going to open up Pandora's box. And so, you know, there's going to be others that are going to want, instead of 7,000, they may be requesting hundreds of thousands of dollars in food. So I caution the council to look at that, because it is a new type of application. And I think there's some areas in there that we could look at that would be fair and appropriate. Those are my comments.
Rachel?
This isn't a comment pertaining to the food, it's just the overall application. I will be attending this event because it looks awesome, and it's going to also be a dinosaur themed event, and people are going to be dressing up their machines as dinosaurs. So I just want to say.
We have to go.
We have to go. So, which is very exciting. Ray Golden actually he said it makes perfect sense, Chris. So what I would do if the advisory council does feel comfortable doing that, I would just at the end of this request an updated budget to reflect that change from the project sponsor. So.
And the change you're talking of is removing
the
the food portion from what we pay for.
Yes, and having it come in with potentially assisting with the
The
funding.
funds being used towards the guest speaker.
Yes, the guest speaker.
Do we need to make a
So
motion?
we could keep the same amount
Yeah.
of the requested amount, just, we would just maybe potentially ask them to shuffle the budget around.
In
So we're
reviewing
not,
this, like, we've got side notes here that we'll receive an additional $6,000 in donations. It's not even part of the budget. Well, those are in kind. Like, that's part of the point of putting them on the application, is it needs to be a budget line item. When we're talking about food, I agree, like, this is wholeheartedly no on the food side of it. If we're gonna provide an education and a paleontologist, that kind of stuff, great. But what does that have to do with OHV? Maybe it can be responsible use in that area so that we don't damage what is there. If it's going to be related to that side of things, great. But in the food portion, they're collecting registration fees to pay for that food. That's part of the registration dollars that he explained in the application. I think the intent is well thought. The implementation of the budget portion of it and explaining how this works. I mean, he's talking about having $12,000 or $9,000 project, but then we also have another $6,000 sitting on the sideline over here that's a side note. Well, how does that fit into there? Because that looks a whole lot different when they're asking for a 50% match versus what they're asking now. And so that's fine, but it just doesn't seem to be built very well. help understand how they're gonna use the funds, and I don't think we should use it for food.
This is Fred. I go to 7 jamborees every year. We pay for our own food. We donate, and we build it in there. $30 or $35 for registration fee is cheap.
Right.
But, you know, one of them does it for free, but you pay for all your meals. So I think you'd be opening that big can of worms if you started funding this, because I know somebody that goes to all of them.
I do have a comment. This is Eric. I don't want to get tipped over this because I think it's a cool event and I do, you know, you make some excellent points. And I think to get people down here, you know, the program wants to disperse some people, right? That's what the program is after. And so the spirit of this is awesome. Some of this loosey-goosey budget stuff, you know, we're here to do the research and really look at this and try to make a decision based on what's there in the budget. And so I would be glad to comment or to vote on something like that if we could see a real budget and feel confident that that's what it is. I don't know, this one feels loosey-goosey. This is, you know, just like Chris is saying.
But the timing works for them to be able to come back next quarter with a revised budget that is more dialed in. 'Cause I agree with Kurt and Eric on that point, because I was like, well, if they already know they've got $6,000, like where does it fit in? So would it still work for them if they came back
Timing-wise.
in the next quarter to be able to do what they need to do for their events
Well, they're doing it in August, aren't they?
of this year? Okay,
Yes.
so it's gotta happen this cycle.
Mhm.
Rachel, I have a question on it. Why is this form different than the other forms? And it doesn't show a chart with the budgeting. Is it
Oh.
further down?
So when this was submitted, there are items, it's not, I believe when certain questions were asked in it, they included them in that, like they added it into it's just because it is a PDF document, so you can insert other pages.
I see, I found it at the
Yes.
bottom, and that's all.
And we approve or not based on them submitting a refined budget that explains what that $6,000 is being used, or
Yes, that's what we've done in the past is for an updated budget. We've approved what we consider to be, represent the intent of FIG, and then we've just asked for an updated budget to show that.
okay.
I guess my question is, do we want to potentially have them come back with with a different budget total, including the 6, but also having more, they're requesting that $39,000 for something else instead of food.
$3,900.
Well, it's not just something else, but that's how much the speaker, I mean, we could donate to him or the club could donate or whatever it was, that's how much it costs to get him there, or not just another name on that charge.
Okay.
There's a lot of information that and they have a second grant in here that they're requesting mapping, which is, I mean, obviously that one's great. Why are we not working with an education process in that same? Because it's going to be a brand new map. Are they going to feature it at the Jamboree? Are they going to have a speaker from Glen Canyon National Park, whatever, is coming in and contributing to help people understand what's available here?
I believe the map is completely separate.
It's a separate application, but it's similar. It's the same area.
Same area?
So are they introducing the map at the Jamboree? I would hope so. That's kind of the intent here.
I don't know if they are, because
Probably not if.
if the event's August 30th, they probably don't have time to complete that other.
No.
Project.
they're-
They have park rangers that we're already working with down there that could be at the Jamboree explaining what's open, what's available. We may not have a full map update.
Yeah, and I mean, he's listening, so if you had that suggestion for him, then.
The food thing is gonna catch him. And I think that we have a great intent in that area, but revise the budget is my recommendation. It needs to be fixed, or we're covering fixed costs that are directly related. Food is a soft cost and it's flexible based on attendance, and it should be collected in registration dollars.
When does the state parks board meet to approve these?
August 19th.
Chris, did you have any guidance on this?
It is yet to be determined that these will actually be heard by the
Oh.
state parks board.
Forgot about that one.
So,
Well, Chris, go ahead.
Well,
so, so to answer that question, that's when the next state park board meets, but I don't know if these recommendations will be heard at that meeting. And that's a topic of discussion that is not on the agenda that I do not want to discuss.
Respect that.
Thank you.
How does that affect the overall timing of their project then?
if what we've been told is that we are going to proceed as,
Assuming that it's okay.
that as we are now
Okay.
until we hear otherwise. So to date, we are proceeding with the intent that this will be going towards the board.
Okay, very good. I would just want to echo some of the other members' comments about the food and things like that. I don't think swag or gifts and food are gonna, we have a fiduciary responsibility to appropriate these funds and answer for the decisions that we make. I see a lot of validity in this project, especially given the location, and as Eric mentioned, the value of dispersing some use and helping some folks down there see something that they've probably never experienced. The question about the map and how that takes place, I think also would be one of my concerns. It would be great to have maybe seen this application a little bit sooner so that we could have maybe helped us facilitate some of that. Really and truly, I'm torn. You know, I see the value in it, but there's too many things about it that I'm kind of struggling with.
There's a lot of discussion here about if the budget were different. Is there something specific we would want to recommend the budget be revised to? Or do we just want to vote on it as is?
I would make a recommendation if we do approve this, that he needs to revise the budget to include some education opportunity while at the jamboree and promote that. So it could be both tourism and education. Because
And
that's a
remove
big
the
factor
food.
there.
And exclude the food.
And
Exclude the food and replace it with an
I
education
would feel
component.
comfortable voting on that in that manner. If everyone else is, I would make a motion that we do that.
Okay, will you state your motion?
Tommy George and I would make a motion that we vote to either approve or deny the application, but we're doing that based on all food costs being removed from the application. And we would request that there is an educational component added in to the application at a specific dollar amount, or just that there is some type of educational aspect to it. And
Okay.
based on those two changes, I would be willing to vote and I'd make a motion.
Okay,
You state your name for the record,
Kirk Chester.
the recording. Okay. Should we go around and vote on
On the motion.
that motion?
so this is just voting for the motion,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
Okay. And if Cheryl, you want to start?
Jason, aye. Scott, aye.
Eric, aye. Ron, aye.
Tommy, aye.
My next, Brett, no. Or table, we're voting table, all right?
We are voting to,
We're voting to accept it with those changes.
Okay.
If we do accept it.
If we do accept it, then we're gonna vote on it.
I would sooner say no.
Kirk, aye.
okay. Do we want to vote on this?
Jessica.
Oh, sorry, Brody.
Yes.
And
Tyson is yes.
Do we want to vote on this? Okay. All right, sorry, it's being all weird up there too. I'm like staring at it intently.
So Chairman, could you tell us what we're voting on? Revised budget?
so we are voting whether or not to recommend the grant application based on
Those changes.
the revisions we just voted on. Well, I'm not sure why we did that in 2 steps, but that's okay. Better 2 steps than one too many or one too little.
The way we've done it in the past is we voted based on the changes.
Ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
Okay,
vote.
All right.
so it's going to be the same amount, but just with a revet. I'm not gonna get into it. Okay, wait, hold on 1 second. He just responded. He said no
Late.
problem.
This is Fred.
Yes, go ahead, Fred.
With the jamborees like that, they're talking newspaper and everything else. You're gonna see every jamboree applying. That the tourism and everything else are already granted to them. The transit room tax is already being spent. So you'll be inundated with
We see them pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah.
jamborees.
They come to
They
the
have.
table pretty regularly already, just for different things.
Of the 7 I go to, I can see every one of them hitting you up next quarter.
We've had it in the past and there's nothing against it. There's nothing to say that we shouldn't use travel or
As
tourism
long as we
categories.
follow the guidelines set
Yes.
forth in appropriating the funds.
Yes.
Now, when I was in Fillmore this year, I did, some gals went out and picked up trash, so I recorded their hours for trash.
I just heard, he just responded and he said that we are fully prepared to move forward with all marketing funding on our own. We are just desiring to expand marketing to out-of-state people to attend. They're looking at the Four Corner region, as mentioned, trying to get some out-of-state funds into our tax base. So that's kind of what the intent is behind, I believe, the food. But,
Either way, we're still where
Yeah,
we're
either
at.
way.
yes, either way, we are still,
Off, so.
okay.
But thanks for the input.
Okay, so do you want to vote?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Pat?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Thinking about it,
Tommy?
I'm sorry. I
Yes.
did hear that.
Okay. Tyson?
Yes.
Fred?
Yeah.
Eric?
Yes.
Kurt?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
And Brody?
Yes.
On to the next one, also from the same applicant. This is for the mapping of Glen Canyon. I believe it is the, sorry. It is the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area for OHV trails. They are requesting a total amount of $8,000 for a project total of $11,000. This is going to take place in multiple counties. With this one, it is an education item. I know that it was discussed in our last application that you wanted to see it prior, but I will say that when Friends of Tickaboo did a map, they did it in a very short amount of time and had it presented. It was actually my first site visit that I've ever done. So just wanted to put that in there. With it, they do have 2 letters of support. If there are any other questions, I can field those.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I appreciated the fact that they'll coordinate with the land management agency. I know we get a lot of people making maps and they don't coordinate, and then the public starts utilizing those as the rule, so I think that's a critical part that they'll hopefully follow through with, so that it's accurate and represents where people are allowed to ride. So I think maps are always very appreciated.
Definitely.
This is Fred, the map book we just put together, we had the agencies put them together for us.
Way to do it.
So there was nothing, no cost there.
Mm.
So the Forest Service and the BLM, they all laid it out for us. And they did it off the 911 numbers.
So
Should
this
we,
is, Eric, that was my comment, my note on that is the only way to get these maps, doing it yourself and incurring the costs, or is there another way to get that data? That was, my question.
Real quickly, sorry, it's just from the project sponsor. He said that we are following the National Park Service guidelines for these maps.
Right, so what's kind of unique about this area is it's within a national park. A lot of the trails cross from BLM into national park managed lands, which traditionally have been 100% off limits to OHVs. But recently, it's been a few years back, some of the routes within the national recreation area were redesignated as open to ATVs and side-by-sides and whatnot. And so now you've got the BLM routes, the National Park Service routes. Some of the National Park Service routes you can go on and some of them you can't go on. And that was kind of the spirit I felt like from this was, if I'm on BLM land and I'm coming up into the national park, you know, where can I go and where can't I go? Because I personally know I can go into the park, but where can I go? And I don't know how well it's delineated on the ground.
So maybe that addresses Eric, because Eric, are you wondering why the agency is not producing the map, but it just takes it.
Right, you got two different agencies
Yeah.
with regulations that are inconsistent with every
So
other
it's not
National
the
Park
route that
Service
it's trying
unit.
to
Yeah,
Demonstrate and show both land map and agencies.
yeah, that's what I got out of it when I was reading that.
That makes sense.
Because I remember being in on the public comments when the Park Service was making that decision whether or not to open these routes to us.
I think we should vote.
I
do it.
agree. Also, the food is supposed to be here around 6, so, but I have not received a call or anything, so just putting that out there. Scott, would you like to begin?
Not really.
We'll start anyway.
I would like to make a comment before we vote. I was concerned about what the product would look like. I have that concerns with, you know, the working with the other agencies and producing a product that is a manageable product. I keep seeing from different groups of people maps that are very inconsistent with each other. That's hard to understand going from this map to this map to this map. And so that would be my only question. I have no problem producing maps and signage, and so I would say yes on this.
So, okay. He said if you look at National Park Service, Glen Canyon National Recreation Area website, they have a spot for a map for each trail, but they don't have the actual map. We have become the de facto visitor center for that information, and there literally is nothing to give the customer.
So I know we've started voting already, but Chris, can you clear this up for us a little bit?
Yeah, I probably come back and just share a little history. You know, Tickaboo obviously has been very aggressive with their marketing and trying to assist the OHV program with different ride opportunities down there. So take the council back. So some of you that may be in a COVID cloud, come back to me. About 3 years ago, this council received what at that time what was considered a traditional grant, where we did grants one time a year. And Tickaboo was one of those original applicants. They requested signage and mapping. This council approved that. Now, fast forward to where we are now, as Ron eloquently stated about the NPS and the National Recreation Area, that was an issue that Ron and I, that's how actually Ron and I first met, was through that T&P process. And look at where we've come now with the approval of that. But I think it's one of those traditional values that Tickaboo has said, look, NPS probably is not seeing the visitors showing up at their doorsteps for where do I ride. So they are taking and championing this as a cause of saying, look, our visitors, we are a rental company, we are a destination, we are people that pass through that receive services. We want to be able to be good stewards and customers, provide quality customer service to those people visiting the area in hopes that they'll return back. And so I just think this is one of those that's catapulted us from a base area to the next level, just because of how the area is opened up. Does that help answer the question?
It's also a super important bridge between two land agents that we should try and nurture. Should we continue?
Another question, just real quick. So do these maps include online maps, like Avenza versions that can be put on devices?
I
Or
am
the
not,
application processes that would be how they were mapping it, either through Lens or Geo. So I would assume that we could use those. They wanted to clarify that and make sure that they're working with the recreation area to make sure that the maps are correct and accurate and set the rules in place as well. So I would assume that once they're completed, they probably would have like a GPS file you could upload.
Should we continue with the vote?
yes.
Want
Scott,
me to do that over again?
Yeah.
This is Scott, we'd already say yes.
great. Thank you. Tommy,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
All right, on to our next one. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Those are very expensive.
I know, they're turned off.
Are they?
They all were blue and now they're black.
Uh-oh,
Okay, sorry. No.
okay.
Whenever we talk, we should.
So, oh,
Hey,
okay. I think we're maybe okay. I think we're okay.
Tyson and Brody just heard you, so.
That's good. Well, there's also the owl here,
Oh, okay.
so,
As a point of reference on page 8 of that application, it would say they'll make digital copies available.
perfect. Okay. Sorry. On to the next one. This is for the Iron County Search and Rescue Equipment Acquisition. It is coming from Iron County Search and Rescue, taking place in Iron County, and they're requesting a little bit over $38,000 for a total project cost of a little over $48,000. So what I have in here is that they also sent it in for review early. This is the application that sent in 2 letters of support after the closing date for letters of support. But with those 2 letters not, regardless of that, they already had 2 letters of support. So they did meet the criteria for that.
it was an addition.
Yes, but it just came in after the fact. So just putting that out there. If there's any questions, I believe I can field those. And I may need to step out because I think maybe the booth, you get it? Thanks. Make sure you get the receipt, please. I know, I know. So is there any questions? I know with this one, when I first reviewed it, originally they did have the track kit as a requested funding amount from FIG, but we are unable to fund snowmobile related items due to the fact that this funding comes from OHV registration dollars and not snowmobile registration dollars. Sorry. So that is why they do have it as their in-kind match.
So really it doesn't count.
It doesn't count at all.
I mean, it can be a
We
match.
can't use, not if it doesn't benefit the OHV
Oh,
community,
so,
because the tracks are a snow-related product. So to have a snow-related product be part of the match for an OHV grant, I would disagree with that.
okay.
Not trying to be
So, no,
negative,
no, no.
just,
The way that I looked at it was more so that it is just part of their whole project budget. So,
it doesn't relate to off-road vehicles.
Okay.
So, does that make sense, or am I being a stickler?
I agree with you, Tom.
I think we've had other projects like that in both councils where their match isn't a qualifying, basically, so,
In regards to the user.
yeah.
But it's not a mandatory,
No,
it doesn't mess up any kind of a percentage other than just for us looking at it.
Okay,
because that's something that we weigh
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, well, we could weigh in it, but we could cross that off
Yep.
and still approve it.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out.
Any comments on this
You're
one?
talking about cost now?
This is for the track item.
On their budget, on item number
I
2.
question that, because I ride just as much in the winter. And we go up, once they groom it, we go right up on top. And it's easier to get stuck, I can tell you that.
It's not so much, I don't think, the user that we're defined by, but where the funding comes from. No, not you. Just in regards, he's talking about using it in the winter time. Not on sleds, you mean?
No, I'm talking about four-wheelers.
Yeah, right.
So he's still saying.
We go up on the mountain in four-wheelers, once they
From them having.
So this is Brody. I think he's saying that they would use the track on the Ranger even during the winter to rescue OHV users that get themselves in a pickle. That's what I am gathering. And I agree with that.
Thanks, Brody.
No problem. But I do agree with it. I think that that if we discount that in any way, shape, or form, we're saying that OHV use is not occurring during the winter months in snowy conditions. They are, and they're using it a lot. And even side-by-sides and ATVs people are putting those tracks on and getting out into the winter months, and they're going to need to be rescued at times. And the only way to do that is either by helicopter or a tracked vehicle. So whether we pull that out and not count it or keep it in there and count it, I think it's still a good overall grant.
I guess a question for clarification here is, how do we track, I mean, there are OHV users that are on side-by-sides with tracks. They're a registered OHV. They're not a snowmobile. They're a registered OHV that is legal, to put on the legal requirements to travel across groomed trails.
And they've contributed to the fund.
Correct. And so it comes back to, is that part of an OHV product or is it a snowmobile product? Yes, it's used for snow travel, but it's legally a registered OHV.
I think we would expect the applicant to make that case. If they're gonna purchase something that's gonna be used over snow, they should, in their application, in my opinion, make the case of why that.
I would agree with
But
that.
in the Color County area,
Yeah, my comment is, it's
there's no
really,
snowmobile.
it's rare at this point. You know, as far as how many people have
A crossover.
and are crossing over, and I just thought it was interesting that it was added as a map. And so.
I don't disagree with the adding of the match, but in the areas that they're highlighting, there's not snow. Don't recreate there.
If you look on the map,
And that, them put it in as a match, that was my fault because I misunderstood. I thought that it was something that could be put in as a form of a match as long as it wasn't coming out of big funding. So my
But I think
apologies.
there's a clarification back to, it's a registered OHV that's traveling with the snow. The registration dollar for the vehicle that's moving over that is an OHV.
I sure wouldn't want to wait around for somebody to change the tracks to come to rescue me.
I think they switch over in the winter months, so they can travel on dirt just fine. But I don't have a problem making a match. From the snowmobile side of things, where they're traveling and what they're on, if those trails are slick and icy, just having snow floor on them, tracks are gonna be significantly safer to get somebody out the mountain.
Should we vote?
Okay.
Any more comments? Eric, you're thinking.
I'm always, sorry, I think it'll come up with another.
I'm good. That's all.
I think it comes back to the nature of the use though, I mean, where they're traveling. If I as a snowmobile user came in and applied for tracks, yeah, we have a major issue. This is search and rescue. And the areas that they're using it is not predominantly known or even known as a snowmobile area. We don't go out.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I'm concerned about the practicality. You can't be switching tracks back and forth trying to go rescue somebody. I mean, I can see sick them on the winter time, but how would you determine when you have it on and have them off? If it's snowing, you chase them down with snowmobiles, is what you do.
It comes back to how much snow. I mean, you've got to have 3 to 4 feet of snow on the ground to operate a snowmobile safely.
So I have a personal experience with this. I'm on search and rescue out here in Uintah County. And last spring, we rescued 2 guys on snowmobiles, a mile or 2 up the trail. They didn't really know what they were doing. And then 2 weeks later, we got called out to go rescue the same 2 guys. But enough snow had melted that they thought they could get where they were going in a snowmobile, and they burned up their snowmobiles. But we spent 2 days in wheeled side-by-sides trying to get to where we thought they were. Moffat County came over and helped us, and they had a wheeled or a tracked side-by-side that was able to get where we couldn't get with our wheeled side-by-sides, and we couldn't get there in our snowcat because there wasn't enough snow. And they could navigate the snow and the mud terrain very, very well, where neither our snowcat nor our snowmobiles could get there without burning up. And so I do see where, and I'm obviously, search and rescue and feel a little biased on this, but I do see the application in people get where they can't be. And these are very extremely useful in getting them out. And we were looking for that guy for 3 or 4 days and finally found him, and one of them was dead. So, I don't know. I think there's good use for these.
Any other comment, or should we vote on it?
Okay,
Any recommendation for revisions?
great. So we are beginning with Tyson.
Yes.
Okay, Fred,
Yes.
Eric,
Yeah.
Kirk.
Yeah.
Ron?
Yes.
I did that wrong. Sorry. Cheryl,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Tommy.
Yes.
Okay, votes. Do we want to take our break and eat, and then once we've eaten a little bit, come back and continue with this? Or do we want to just try to get through one more quickly? I say we get through
Let's do
one.
one more.
Okay, I think that's a great idea. Okay, so, yeah. So this is for the promotion of Utah OHV tourism to Chinese American communities. This is a resubmission from last quarter with updates and on what was asked last quarter of them. Pretty much they just the OHV Advisory Council wanted some more clarification on what was being done and with a little bit more information. And this is the updated version of that grant. Any discussion?
This was a lot clearer
Yeah.
application than last time.
Yeah, it's easier to understand what they do with it for sure.
Yeah. And also, the OHV program does intend to work with the applicant on this, especially because it does pertain to OHV youth. And I think it's an area where they are not 100% knowledgeable. So we want to be able to participate in that and support them through that.
One thing I noticed that kind of wasn't too sure about is their letter of support was from a student at the University of Virginia. And their second letter of support was, appeared to me to be from the software company that would be working with them, maybe. I would have loved to have seen a letter of support from a land manager saying, hey, we have a whole bunch of visitors of, that would benefit from this. or from a county tourism that said, hey, we've got, a lot of Chinese visitors that
point is
need
they're gone.
something special. I would have liked to see something like that, but I wasn't too impressed with the letter of support being from a student at the University of Virginia. I just,
Grant is there isn't any Chinese tourism.
Yeah.
We have 300,000 visitors and less than 1% engaged in the OHV program.
Yeah.
And so our state parks and rec is already committed to and working with them on the project.
Yeah, and I think that the thing is, then I think that could also be an inroad to bringing in agencies to see that project as well. Those connections might not be there.
I just don't think they have connection to the
Yeah.
OHV community
That's-
at
Right.
all.
Right.
So,
I think this is a beginning point. Yeah.
This is Brody. Can I make a comment? I'm just wondering why they are not hooking up with somebody like AYL to do a little advertising and helping them to understand all of this and promote their events and promote writing and things like that. That seems more realistic than them trying to do everything from scratch, even with state parks help.
We can all into a different language,
Yeah.
This is a conversion to Mandarin.
so it's not going to be something that would air on Activision.
Yeah.
So this is an education program directed specifically towards the Chinese, Japanese American tourism, which has nothing to do with AYL.
I'm not saying for it to be on 10 o'clock Sunday morning, but I'm saying, why is somebody not like AYL not producing this for them that they can show on TV stations in China or whatever? Why are they reinventing the wheel with this instead of using people that, even though they don't speak Chinese, know the OHV community? That's what I'm saying.
I think that might be something that we could come back with, but I just think at the beginning of this, they need to do what is in their comfort zone instead of working with someone who doesn't know. Yeah, they know their market. We do not know their market. And that's the difference with it, is that,
I think the content they're getting is from you guys, correct?
yeah,
So they're getting state content that they're converting to Mandarin
Yeah.
and then promoting it to the Chinese American community.
okay.
What are they doing?
do you have any input on this application, Chris? Do we want to vote on it, or is there any additional discussion?
Well, why don't we begin voting and then we can take a break and eat the taco bar. So I'm gonna start with Fred.
Yes.
Okay. Eric,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
all right, Ron,
Yes.
okay, Cheryl,
Yes.
Brody,
No.
Jason,
Yes.
Scott,
No.
okay, and then Tommy. Well,
No.
no? Okay, Tyson,
Yes.
all right, so we're going to take a break and eat, and then we will reconvene once we are finished. With that application, it did score a 70, so that is more than 50%, so it did pass. Just letting everyone know.
How many do we have left?
That was our
7, we have 13.
13 left.
And point of motion is I believe we are still live on YouTube, so I would suggest that we, hit a play, kind of do what you need to do and.
Come back and get back at it?
Because we're still.
Okay.
Yes.
We're still.
Quit.
Well, I can ask, well, but yes.
So I apologize, I thought they were bringing us silverware plates. So we have.
Hey, what are you talking about? Look, I'm making so you can take a spoon. Turn that thing off. Okay.
I picked it out with my hands. I can't turn my phone on, 'cause I got it on hotspot. So. Let me just finish up with that. Okay.
I guess we want to just keep this top.
I'll do that. Foil top.
We can get creative.
Yeah. So. Reason to bring it up, just personal job change. Probably just change interest. I really see commercials they produce, love this thing. I like to see them and products.
Yeah.
This and have somebody translate it in English.
Be creative here.
I think what they could do is just make a regular commercial and then double over them. Chinese.
I mean, those links are definitely.
Yes.
This couple of the ones. I think this is what if audience doesn't see that. That tastes great.
I wanted to call it possibly these last time, and I just, right,
Yeah.
I thought. That's what we put on tables.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You can have it if you want.
Okay, thank you.
But do we need to change any of it?
Can
Can we
I-
get ready to order 11 more?
So the only thing is that our division name has changed. So it might just be Utah Division. But Chris and I can let you know. Cause we might even just say this month's grant.
We've been putting them on every two.
Okay, that's fine for the time, yeah. It's been a very recent
Stuff just
change.
too fork and I'll have enough fork to back myself up.
So. I, you know, hey. we used to do it. Take red dots and just put them on what we favor up and put them all up on the board.
Yeah, it's a little different.
And I just like folded the lid. That's like a plastic kill trick, you know, you just fold the lid and you just look at it like.
We didn't have the funny bit.
Yeah.
Either.
Trail tricks, clothes, things, I just
Okay. Tyson and Brody, are you guys here?
Brody's here.
Okay,
I'm here.
awesome.
I
Okay,
ate a taco for you.
yeah, I'm still eating my makeshift taco, so don't judge. Okay, so this is number 7, and it is for the Sevier County Search and Rescue OHV equipment upgrade. The project sponsor is the Sevier County Sheriff's Office, it's obviously taking place in Sevier. They're requesting almost $62,000 for a total project of, sorry, excuse me, a little over $76,000. Their percentage match is 19%. With this one, it is a search and rescue item. They have 3 letters of support, and it is also their first time applying. So if there are any questions on this application, please let me know and I can field those.
So just to be clear, this is for 3 vehicles.
That's 2.
I think it's 2 Razor 900s.
What is your resume?
Mm-hmm. Remember for 1 Polaris through XP. Wait, budget is
The last, I think it's the last.
Polaris,
Trail system.
Trail Razor, source match.
What?
Because we got 600 miles, 50-inch trail there. We was on one rescue, took them 3 hours to get to it.
With 50-inch?
There was one the other day at 45 minutes.
Bruce, I don't think this is the trailer one.
Okay, just.
There was a couple.
Any questions or comments on this one?
Do we know how many machines they currently have?
Yeah, they got from the old one.
They said that their current machine is 7 years old, but that's all.
Forward, they have the one, but hey,
Yeah, that's my, when I'm looking through this, the first thing I'm looking at is, it's the first time applying, they're kind of shooting for the moon here a little bit, it looks like.
Somewhere up the entire application, I made a note, they said they have 4 to 10 incidents per year.
I think
Yeah.
I saw that as well.
And if this is the one that no, it's not the one that I'm thinking of.
3 machines is
4 to 10 OHV related.
OHV
Yeah.
related incidents.
Which, and I don't know, but it seems like a lot.
That would cause me concern for the amount of money that we're being asked to appropriate for that much need.
Yes.
We had 21 total calls, 20% of them in 2021 OHV related.
I feel as though they're. What I tell applicants is when it comes to search and rescue is that it, or just in general, is that whatever percentage pertains to OHVs, that's how much we should be funding.
According to their application, 61,897% is OHV use.
That was an error on my end.
That's a lot.
No, because if you upload something and it has the same category or same name, it just autofills. And I
Just
thought
pull
I
the
caught
number
them
off the
all.
budget, probably can't.
Yep. I thought I caught them all, so
Any discussion on this?
is there any way you can just give one
There's a
machine?
reason he's the program
Yeah.
coordinator.
So as a point of reference, they're talking about they have 600 miles of 50-inch trail. So I could see the need for a smaller machine, and talking about a 4-seater deal of transport.
Not possible.
But what's the point of 2 50-inch machines for 10 calls a year? I don't understand. It sounds like they're shooting to fulfill their
Right.
entire equipment quota from us.
Well, trying to get more, rescue people there. But
one
all
incident.
the 60-inch trails come out onto a.
But we're talking about 10 calls a year, it's $61,000.
They kept flying independent and they got the risk. It's all money there.
So what should we do? Should we suggest that it's for a lower dollar amount? Chris, do you have some guidance on this? Sorry to interrupt.
Put your mouth on it.
Is that a taco? No, that's smart.
Super smart.
I took a video. I mean, you know.
So obviously, you know,
Alright,
I did have a conversation with Sheriff Curtis. And, you know, with the Pivot Trail system, obviously being world renowned, they're seeing impacts associated with their search and rescue efforts. As most of you know, across the state, search and rescue is a volunteer organization. And I think in this particular case, this is one of those challenging grants. And I think most of the search and rescue ones are a little bit of a struggle. Obviously, we know that they need the equipment. They're in dire need. They've been able to demonstrate those needs through search and rescue efforts and the calls that they're responding to. It's difficult for a sheriff to write in particular items for search and rescue into their budget when they're dealing with all sorts of other types of operational needs, from equipment to employees to outfitting to all those other items. And so I think a good, fair first step would be to look at what the prioritized need would be in severity and have them identify that. And then maybe have to suggest that they come back for a second piece of equipment after that fulfillment. I think that's a fair approach to take because obviously, like we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, if everything is funded and recommended, there's $500 and some change left to go for the rest of the fiscal year. I think would be a fair approach to take. I don't think that, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Sheriff Curtis or Sevier County, but I think that having any type of equipment compared to what they have now will greatly enhance their search and rescue efforts. And going back to like what Brody said too, hey, if any of us are in those situations, there's an expectation for those fine volunteers to arrive on scene to help us. So just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, just a question, would, being 50 inches, is there gonna be challenges transporting people on those? Would it be better to just stick with the bigger machine and transport somebody? What difference would that make to have the 2 razors, versus whatever they're using right now?
I may ask Fred to jump in on that question, Jason, because I think the bigger machine would be more appropriate. Given the use that's occurring down there.
And that's kind of what I'm alluding to, it sounds like the bigger machine may be a better option because if you transport somebody.
I think you have an actual trail restriction, you can get that machine now.
Yeah, if it's,
Yeah. Some of them won't fit.
They have 600 miles of 50-inch only trail, and those machines just don't fit down the trail.
Yeah, but if they know where the location is at, then they can do the hasty search to begin with on the smaller machine.
Why don't we ask him what option he wants?
That was my comment was, you know, we're guessing really what his needs are. You know, and I do know that we've said it time and time again that this is a quarterly grant situation. I would love to decide, give them a machine. That would make me feel a lot better than 3 machines, but I don't know that we're gonna be the best ones to decide which one that is, so.
Let him pick the machine.
I don't know, we still have to, yeah, kind of
I
make a
kind of feel like
recommendation.
I'd like some clarification of what this would be. But if they can't get a wider machine down 50-inch trails, the 50-inch machines don't really have great capacity to haul injured client or person. I can see the need for both of those. I just don't see the need for 3.
This is Brody. Are we suggesting then maybe to be okay with the larger machine and 1 razor and only do 2 machines instead of 3?
Have them reapply with the.
That would be my suggestion, Cheryl, that we ask them to reapply with some more specifics in the areas that we're concerned about, and then relook at the application as a whole, rather than trying to piece something together. I don't think that's the right way to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, because then they can prioritize their need and come in.
Yes, right. Because there is validity in the application that we see the need. One, maybe for a little bit more realistic amount based on what our fiscal balance is going to be for search and rescue, and also more specific in the need. Is everybody in agreement with that? Do we need to make a motion that we do that, or?
Yeah.
I think we just,
Somebody should, though, be charged with following up with him, and I think the program coordinator might be the best avenue.
And I'll do that tonight
Tonight?
during our meeting. So we can discuss later on.
Okay.
Information. I'll just do.
So are we wanting
so should
to
we
say no for now until they give us
That was my
clarification?
or should we table voting on this until we get the feedback later in the meeting, maybe, or maybe not, but we can just set this one aside for a minute.
He's eating with the
service
serviceman, so it shouldn't take much longer.
You think that it will be possible for us to have that with this meeting?
Could have taken that long.
About 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's just bump this one
Yeah.
back to the bottom of the file.
Should we even make a motion?
I don't think we have any obligation to go in a specific order,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I hope.
No, not that
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
aware of.
So let's vote.
Oh,
Is that what we're doing? We're not tabling it?
We're bumping
We're-
it to the back of the line, we'll come back to it. when we're here.
okay. So, also, sorry, just a reminder, we're hoping to get through these by 7:15.
Right.
So second year,
Second gear, guys. All right,
shift to Irene.
we got Beaver County Sheriff's Office. They're also the sponsor under the same name for Beaver County. They are looking for $10,458 with a total project of $37,817. Sorry. This is their first time applying. It has a 72% match, but they said that over 50% of their the items that they encounter are OHV related. Sorry.
This one's for like equipment, right? And then the next grant, because they got 2, correct? And the
Yeah.
next one's for the actual ATVs, and this one's for things to go on the ATVs.
So when I spoke with them, it was actually, I believe, 2 different, same entity, but 2 different people. No, 2 different people within that entity who are applying. One of them kind of found out about the other one, was like, oh, I'm applying too. And I don't know.
So did the same application?
No, it's for different things,
So
but
we're
I think
looking
it's,
at number 8, right?
yes.
So it looks like they're providing the side by side, it's the accessories. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Accessories.
Mhm.
Right.
And the accessories are,
Radio, lights, sirens, installation. Their match is they're purchasing the machine and they're asking us to outfit it with their radios and lights.
so this is search and rescue or LEO?
They're requesting that.
They talked about, law enforcement also on there.
This is Beaver County.
Yep.
So with this one, I
They
did.
marked it as access protection, search and rescue, and
Yeah, this
education.
is definitely just search and rescue. I don't know why people do that.
I think it said it was for patrol.
Yeah, it did say in
It
here
did-
one place for patrolling for law enforcement. Law
Yeah,
enforcement
on B.
functions,
B7,
Medical.
to complete law enforcement functions, search and rescue and medical functions in all areas of Beaver County.
Mhm. And so I spoke with them and explained to them that we will not fund law enforcement items, but that it seems as though it's not solely for law enforcement. So with this, because they're also asking for a radio system and then the installation of it and then like a headset, I would say the lights, sirens, and potentially PA system do fall under law enforcement. Chris. This is the one with Beaver County, and they had law enforcement items that we kind of discussed earlier this past. Okay. So the thing was, is that we were wondering, and if I'm remembering this correctly, and this is why I was asking Chris, but is that instead of funding those items, if we could potentially fund part of their Polaris. But the thing that I think we believe that we went back to was the fact that they actually have a lot of, I mean, out of the 20 SAR calls, 14 of those were OHV connected, and that they intend to use over 50% of this will be used for OHV use. So I think that's why it was kind of just showing as a whole, especially with the machine, is that it's not just law enforcement, it's also for search and rescue items as well. So.
Based on the percentage that they're asking for, I don't feel uncomfortable with that. It's a very small percentage of the actual budget. We've got $50,000+ that they are sponsoring to make in kind in their purchasing machine. We just, I mean, if you wanted to shift the funding to a partial purchase of the machine and they have to supply their own lights and sirens, are the same. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Lights, sirens, and PA system are used in search and rescue events as well as.
correct.
They're not
Yes.
specific.
They're talking about a bike ride and, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, they were talking about the Crusher and the Touchers, which is a bicycle race, but if they're gonna be using it for OHV search and rescue, I would assume there's gonna be ancillary activities that they're supporting anyway, but.
So you feel like our percentage of what they would be paying for matches what percentage they're saying the utilization of the vehicle?
And I think that's why it's such a major, they have such a large match. I mean, their match is 72%. Is to kind of, they do talk.
16% is what they're asking for, so. it's
Yeah.
Very, very low.
Chris, did you have any input on this?
Thanks for asking. I spoke with Sheriff Noel. And I think based upon like what Kurt has said, you know, Beaver County has become a destination over the last couple of years. I think he's done a very good job of being, trying to meet the bounds and the requirements that we're seeking for in the FIG process. And, you know, Rachel and I discussed, hey, what about funding part of the machine? And you bring up a valid point, Kurt, okay, it's apples and apples.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a reason why he put in for that equipment, because he feels that that's more of a local need. And so I think it's a fair application. And I'll roll back to the council to one of the very first, I believe it was the second FIG meeting where we funded a radio system for Utah County out of SAR. So it's, once again, I believe it's staying consistent with what has been done previously. So just my 2 cents.
Do we want to vote on this and move on?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. All right, I believe I started with Fred last time. Did I start with you last time, Fred?
No,
All right, let's start with you.
well, I'll vote yes.
Okay. Eric.
No.
Sorry, gotta fix that. Okay. Kirk.
Yes.
Ron.
Yes.
Okay. Cheryl.
Yes.
Brody.
Yes.
Scott. Hey, Scott. Want me to come back?
Yes.
Okay. Jason, I'm sorry.
Yes.
And I'll just ask.
You good job.
Tommy?
Yes.
Okay, and then lastly, Tyson?
Yes, please.
All right, so moving on to the next one. This is also from Beaver County and it,
That was a.
Oh, that was
just-
a-
okay.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it's so.
Yeah, no, that's.
yeah, we're going back to 7 later.
We're ready for 7?
Are,
I don't think we have an answer yet.
are we ready for 7 or should we just keep going?
We tabled it.
We set it aside
Help me.
in case we get.
The one that we
information.
tabled and you were thinking now.
We're waiting to see if we can get more information before the meeting's over.
Yes. Yes, so it's what with Sheriff Curtis. He fielded my call. He wants to acknowledge each of you and say thank you for reviewing their application and take that into account. Obviously, his need is for both machines. But if he had to go a choice and also knows that, hey, I can come back and apply max score, he would go with the 50-inch machine.
Okay,
So one 50-inch machine?
Wasn't the other a match?
So there were two 50 inches and one.
I believe one was a match.
He said the 50-inch is more of a need on his behalf. And he also knows, hey, he could come back. He's just grateful that we would consider it and take it into account and understands the overall,
Scope.
what the council's trying to accomplish.
so it looks as though if we were just talking about the 50-inch, that is the Polaris Trail Razor 900, correct?
Yes.
So it looks like they're requesting 31,498
But that's for 2.
for 2. So we only want to fund one of those. So we divide that number in half.
Sorry, I don't have.
17,000.
So I'm sorry, 17,000 what?
It's 17,000.
999.
Sorry, I pulled up the slope.
Well, I'm just thinking of their cash match and in-kind match. Okay, 1 second. 31498 divided by 2. So it would be 15,749. And then I assume that for the time being, we'd probably just cross out everything for the oh my gosh. The Range Crew XP, the UTV. And then I think we just,
So let's just entertain a motion of how much we're gonna, it sounds like it's a yes from
But we
the general
want,
consensus. on at least
one
one
yeah,
machine.
that's a good idea.
Is there a consensus of the fact that there's gonna be a price fluctuation by the time they actually have availability of machines? Tommy, can you answer that?
yes and no.
Okay.
The initial 22s will be released at a price very similar to the 21 current price. So
Okay.
if there is a difference in the first little while, it won't be very significant.
So what does the council want to offer as a?
What was the split? 15,789?
It's about 18,000.
Then they've got $4,000 worth of, well,
Match.
if you
$2,000.
take that $2,000 worth of match.
So he's asking for 3 machines, splitting it off and end up with 2,
Let me pull this.
or 1 and 1.
One, just one period.
One total is all we're discussing.
Yeah,
Or funding, I'm sorry.
So you, no,
Why don't we just use a number of like $19,000 that we would fund?
I agree.
And
Okay.
that gives them enough for the machine and half of the equipment upgrades for 2 machines, so that lets them get it outfitted the way they need. And it gives them the machine that they have the most current needs for right now.
so what,
So
I'd make a motion that we approve the application for 19,000 total for 1 machine and the equipment that they need
19,000 fund.
in funding, total of
Okay.
19,000.
This is Kirkhoff, second that motion.
okay, so if we're looking at this, so originally they were requesting 61,897, but we want to have them,
We still need to vote,
Yeah.
but we're saying that we're gonna give them 19,000.
So that was your motion, and then.
And we got a second.
So now we need to
You need to go and collect votes.
okay,
vote on the motion.
Yeah, you're in
Yes.
charge. You can
Yeah,
describe it.
let's do that.
all right. So, Cheryl?
Aye.
Okay,
Yes.
and then, sorry, state
Yes.
names. Jason, okay, sorry, still learning them. Hey, Scott?
Yes.
Yes?
Eric, aye.
Okay.
Ron, yes.
Tommy, yes.
Fred, yes.
Yes, Kirk.
Okay. So they're requesting, so now we are offering them a,
Brody?
oh, okay.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes, for Brody.
Yes, for Tyson.
Point of orders to have the chair go through.
It's confusing when I also do the scoring.
It's easy. Yes,
That's how this was. Anyways,
So,
go ahead.
so those
Chair.
were all yes.
Yes. So anyways, so we are offering them $19,000. Is their total match still going to be $76,397? Or no? Should we
No.
just eliminate
We
that
don't.
whole?
Yeah,
So the match would be,
Their cash match, we don't have.
19%. So
Yeah, it doesn't matter, so all they gotta do is show a cash match. Rachel will go back, get an updated budget from Treasurer for the city, she'll incorporate that and make it.
and that'll all work to the same numbers.
Whenever we go through the approval process, that will, out of the council.
Part of the process.
We're voting.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Yes.
Yes.
Ron,
yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Scott.
Yeah.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
and then Fred.
Yes.
Okay. Now we are moving on to number 9. So number 9 is for search and rescue trail response units. It's also from Beaver County. They're requesting $23,000, a little over $23,000, for a total ask of $46,150. They had 5 letters of support. This is another first application from the same / similar applicants as number 8. There is no SAR information filled out. So if they were to say yes to the categories as SAR, they would have to fill out a specific section, and I did not see that filled out. Sorry, I'm messy over here. So on page, yes, it is not, what?
Page 12.
12, thank you. So page 12 under search and rescue is not completed, therefore we don't really have any idea of what their response to OHV incidents was over the last fiscal year, nor how many instances they intend to anticipate this will benefit for OHV users.
Can I make a motion that we have them reapply with that information?
I agree. I would second that motion.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we just,
Jason's making a motion that they come back with the application included in the next round.
Kirk Chester, second motion.
Any discussion on the motion before we vote? All right, let's vote.
Jason, I.
Scott, aye.
Eric, aye.
Ron, aye.
Tommy, aye.
Fred,
Kirk, aye.
okay, so
Line.
Online.
Brody,
Aye.
Tyson, aye.
so we're not even gonna score it, correct?
Correct.
Next up. All right, so this is an OHV education grant. It is for the OHV youth education incentive items. It's coming from us, the Utah State OHV program. They're requesting $7,500 for a total of $11,500. They have 2 letters of support. Sorry. Okay, sorry, they have 4 letters of support. Is there any questions on this?
Is there a way to prioritize the higher quality items instead of the little? I mean, I think they're trying to use them for different venues, but I just know if having a kid and you get all those little swag items and they come home and they all kind of go in the garbage. But maybe we're trying to use them for different things. I don't know.
So in the past, when, because it's my understanding that this was submitted by someone who now kind of works as a seasonal under in the OHV program, and I remember when this was initially coming up last quarter, I discussed that. Because I hate when I get.
There's great items like the helmets and the gloves and, you know,
Yeah.
things that are actually gonna get used or provide protection for the youth. I think those are great, but then we have to.
Yeah, like bouncy balls
Yeah,
and
bubble
stuff,
necklaces and things like that,
which
they always break in 2 seconds. So I'd rather see more money go to the higher quality items, even if that means we give out less.
I mean, I think that honestly, the things that the advisory council does not feel comfortable funding, because again, it is incentive items, we can cross them out.
There's $1,700 in swag that I would just line
Put
item
into the.
so that's kind of what we've been managing for most of the TIG.
Yeah.
And grant is we don't fund food with swag.
Yeah, but
Yep.
could they put it into the helmets or like the more meaningful items? I would
I would
support
agree.
that.
Buy more helmets with
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah,
So get an updated budget.
that'd just be a suggestion I have, not those other.
I agree.
items.
Maybe we just vote to fund it for the original amount,
Yeah.
and they need to remove the giveaway things that are of no value.
6.
Whether, yeah, specific, what was it?
I remove items. I'll make a motion that if we do proceed with this, the funding for items 4, 5, and 6 be removed and that money be transferred to the purchase of helmets or gloves.
I'll second that.
The only thing I'd tell you about buying helmets, you don't want kid sizes, even though that's who you're trying to give them to. Because say kids gave me 100 helmets and they was all smalls. It took me forever to hand them things out. Because almost every kid, and this is the 8 to 15 years, wore the bigger helmet.
Do you have any input on this one, Chris?
We have a motion on the table we need to address
Yeah.
before we do anything else.
And Tommy seconded it.
All right, let's vote on the motion.
Cheryl, I.
Jason, I.
On aye.
Tommy, aye.
Fred,
Kurt, aye.
Brody, aye.
Tyson, aye.
Okay,
We could vote on it,
So
yeah.
yeah,
that passes. Let's go ahead and vote on the application now.
all right. Eric,
I'll vote yes. I think I've started the last 2 or 3, but I'll vote yes.
It's because you're a born leader.
I'm sorry.
Kurt, yes.
Okay, Ron,
Yes.
Eric, you're up next, by the way, okay? Cheryl,
Yes.
Brody,
Yes.
okay. Jason, Scott,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
and then Fred.
yes,
Okay. All right, on to the next one. This is number 11, and it is for, if I can, it is for the Piute County Ride Responsibly campaign. This was the one that did not have a secondary signature, so it's ultimately up to the advisory council on how to proceed. I did follow up with them twice that day to see if I would be getting one, and I never heard back. And I ultimately still have not received a secondary signature from them. You know, right? Apparently Darren was in the field, but then I didn't ever get one, so. If there's any other questions, I can field those.
Have you gotten a response since?
I received a response that Darren was in the field, but then I never actually received a copy of the secondary signature.
As a council, I don't think we can vote on an
It's an
incomplete
incomplete
application. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's an incomplete application.
Okay,
Any advice, Chris?
I'll let you run that by Rachel.
Any advice, Rachel?
I mean, I reached out to them twice that day looking for it, because I always, when I receive an application, I look for that. And I didn't hear anything until after. And I believe she called me the day before and I said, yes, it does require a secondary signature. So I just say that they do come back.
it's not just that it was missed, it wasn't followed through.
Mhm.
So it's an incomplete application.
Yeah, it's a no.
Let's move on to the next one.
Okay. Do we need to vote or anything on this?
No,
Okay.
incomplete.
Okay. This is for the Color County OHV Trail Safety and Equipment Supplies. It's coming from Iron County. They're requesting a little under $10,000 for a total ask of $14,550.
Can I make a comment on this one?
Yeah.
This is actual equipment to do trail work.
Are you law?
I feel like that, it makes me very excited.
That's
Do
an
you
auto.
want to be the
approval.
first one to vote on this?
I'll do the first, I'm ready. I've swallowed my spit, I'm ready to speak.
And it's not your turn.
I know. I've learned over the last 3, just be ready.
Just check it.
Any comments or questions?
I think it's a pretty fair.
Should we vote on it? Let's vote.
Okay. Kirk?
Eric, what do you think?
I'd like to vote.
Eric,
you
did
can
you
wait
have
your
something
turn.
to add?
I said you're already, but I'm just giving you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Kirk, you lost your chance. I already know your vote. Cheryl?
Yes.
Odie?
Yes.
Okay. Jason?
Yes.
All right. Scott?
Yes.
Tommy?
Yes.
Tyson?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is for, Eric will be excited, this is for another trail work project. It's taking place in Miller County. It's for the High Desert Trail Mapping and Signing. They're asking almost $31,000 for a total project cost of $54,560. It's for trail work. This is their first time applying and they have 3 letters of support.
Is anybody familiar with this trail system?
Yeah.
Could you share it with us?
You want Fred or you want me?
Both.
Okay, I'll hand the floor over to Fred.
What they're doing is, created the trail system from, St. George to Box Elder. Since I don't get up that far. But it's supposed to be going all the way through. Also, it's supposed to be interconnecting trails that will connect into the Paiute and everything else as it goes on up. So you'll be able to, like, leave Twilla out here and go all the way down to Beaver, down to, through Millard and Fillmore, in that area. So there's absolutely, I don't think there's any signage, nothing out there right now. It's all new.
So this was an original proposal that was submitted by a previous OHV Advisory Council, Dale Grange, roughly about 22 years ago. And it was the High Desert Trail that connected basically Washington County and Iron County. The program, in search of identifying some of those lost relics along the way, proposed trail systems, dusted this one back off the shelf and represented it to Beaver County. Michelle Evans has jumped on this and has been coordinating meetings until COVID arrived. And so when I say coordinated meetings, Miller County, Juab County, Tooele County, and Box Elder County has come on board. Like Fred had mentioned, there are side trails that connect into other trail systems, but if you can imagine a West Desert spine system that is marketable and identifiable, running north and south in the western portion of the state, That's going to open up some huge additional opportunities to once again divert some of that use in our high impact areas. It will provide early season riding and late season. I mean, if you can imagine being able to launch, so to speak, out of Eureka, run load out of 5 Mile Pass and ride into grandma's house on an ATV for Thanksgiving. This is the type of thing that you can experience and stop along the way to help sustain those economic opportunities in the West Desert for those counties. We are continuing to work on an agreement to try to get that in place. Miller County has the clearances from the BLM to mark their particular route system. They have a map. There's already been a logo established. And in addition to that, the counties, those counties that I've mentioned, each one of those counties, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, the county commissioners or the county council has passed a resolution in support of the high desert trail system. So Miller County is first, and then I believe in another application from Beaver County, they also mentioned it in there. So the needle is moving.
Yep.
And Fred may remember Dale Grange's original proposal.
Yeah, I was on the council at the time.
That's why I thought that would be appropriate.
Out of curiosity, Chris, does it incorporate pieces of the prospector or completely different routes than the prospector?
It will incorporate, I believe, portions of the prospector trail system specifically into Willard County. Just because
Just curious if there'd be overlap there to where that trail would, be able to get more attention as well.
Yeah, I think
That looks cool.
it'll be to Willard County. Box Elder County, a different story.
Gotcha.
Time to vote.
All right, should we vote?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I have a big concern about this. They didn't check the motorcycle box on this thing. I would think that motorcycles can ride on this too, but they,
Nobody cares about.
okay. But, well,
Have them come back and play next year.
So I think the full-size four-wheel drive could ride on them too, right? So I think all 4 of those boxes should be checked.
I agree.
Yeah.
Everybody agree on that? Okay. Now we can go.
Anyways.
Constant yammering about snow.
Hey, Ron.
Yes. Yes.
And it's snowmobile can go on too if you want to ride it.
Put some wheels on the front, so it's an ATV.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
have to-
some tracks too. Cheryl.
Yes.
Okay. Brody.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Okay. Scott.
Yes.
Only if they fix it then. Anyways, Tommy.
Yes.
Okay. Tyson.
Yes.
Okay. Fred? Yep. All right, Eric
Yes.
and Kirk.
Yes.
Okay. Cheryl, you're up next.
Only man's motorcycle.
And snowmobiles.
Can't forget that. Okay.
We're up on some.
A little bit of a dirt
High
ride.
desert.
So
Going across the salt line, maybe.
14, 13,
Yeah.
where we at?
14, this is for the Daggett County website digital maps for download. It's under the other category. This is their first time applying and they have 2 letters of support. 11,500 is what they're asking for a total project of $14,196. Any discussion or?
So I received information on this one the day before it was due. Being on the Daggett County Trails Committee and just for your information, there was not a whole lot of discussion in the Trails Committee. Like I say, we found out about this application the day before it was due. So we didn't have a whole lot of input on it. So take that for what it's worth.
Okay.
Any idea why there's no cash in that at all?
That's because Daggett County doesn't have any money.
Okay.
They've got a lot of in-kind labor put in there. And part of the email from the chairman of the Daggett committee was asking for volunteer hours, but there was no discussion in there about how much was going to be required or anything like that. So
Do you know much about the 3 trails they listed?
So the two of them I do know about, the Finch's Draw and the Carter Military Trail. Those are part of the Daggett County Trails Master Plan, this Death Valley Trail. I went through all the trails and I don't know which one that one is, so I'd have to talk to somebody that does know about it. But yeah, we went through 150 different trail projects in Old County, and that one was never brought up, so.
Do we want to vote on this?
Chris, do you have any input on this at all? Okay.
I think Jason's done an excellent job of fair representation.
Okay, this is for 14.
I will say though, I mean, if it's advancing and promoting trails in Daggett County, I think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm just, for the record, that's how it was presented to us.
Mhm. Help us out.
Would you recommend a better, like you don't know anything about that trail or the trails that would be better used mapping, make a recommendation on?
Yeah, we had, Finch's Draw was a priority to be mapped, and we've been having conversations with the forest there. That one falls within the National Recreation Area of Flaming Gorge, so it's kind of a interesting trail because they're not used to having motorized in the NRA, so they're figuring that out with us. Carter Military Trail is one that's on both Uinta County's OHV plan and Daggett plan. It needs to be fixed. And we're working to put in a recreational advisory council application for funding to help fix that trail. It's washed out pretty bad right now, and so we're working with the forest on the Uinta County side to go fix that. And I'd recommend that it get fixed before we start promoting it because it's pretty dangerous right now, so.
Sounds fun, how do we get there?
I'll fix it till I read it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, in my opinion, it would be,
On snowmobile?
yeah, and I don't know where they came up with these trails. They may have talked to somebody in Daggett County that I'm not familiar with the conversation, but it would be nice to have a little more talk about it before we apply for funding on that side of things. So,
Do you know who's going to be producing that product?
I believe this was Chad Booth that came to the county, so. At your leisure.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's like a swear word.
Yeah, this is part of his online mapping, I think that he's been doing at the
Or
other
is that the
projects.
next one, the advertising and content creation?
It's separate. It's the same application, well, it's the same deal for both this application and the next one. The next one is just to videos of trails.
Yeah, so that's probably the AYL one, right?
They're both,
Okay.
yeah, they're both from Chad, so.
Anybody else have any input on it?
Why don't we
Vote on it.
Let's vote.
All right. Cheryl, you were up first.
That is awesome. You got twice.
1 liter.
I just realized, I was like, oh, we're on 14 and Cheryl's just up and there's only 10 people.
We're gonna go no because I'm concerned about the trails that are chosen. I mean, I feel like they could revise it. Sorry about that.
Brody?
No.
Jason?
Sounds the same to me.
No,
Okay.
no.
Tommy?
No.
Okay, Tyson?
No.
Okay, Fred?
No.
Okay,
No.
Eric?
No.
Kurt?
It's no.
Okay, Ron?
No,
All right,
I think it'd be better if we sent a message to coordinate with the trails and district pair. Let's not mark a trail that's gonna hurt somebody.
yeah,
Great input, thank you.
Maybe if I could speak, at least for myself, I guess, or maybe the council. we should reach out to them. We see the validity in what they're trying to do.
For sure.
For sure, we need a little bit better preparation. And would, as a council, would probably like to see some of the local clubs and whatnot be a little bit more actively involved in what, where, when, and how. Is that
I agree.
fair?
Would
for all
you
of
feel
us?
comfortable following up on that?
Or does that put you in a weird spot? Because it could.
We're
No,
gonna tag team it.
What's that?
Let's tag team it.
Flip the phone over.
What we could do too is incorporate the motorcycle guy.
Born leader.
Don't look at me, I'm the dealership.
So as a council, we can trust that you guys have that covered?
Let's try to tag team that. Jason and I, we have a good relationship with those companies. The thing with that is there are no formalized club in Daggett County. I guess
Okay.
the closest you could get to is the U-Rats that would probably at a distant adopt it, but I don't want to speak for their club or organization.
There's two, there's the URAT and the Daggett Trails Committee. And the Daggett Trails Committee did sign a letter of support, but I don't know that
They knew what they were supporting?
They were supporting, exactly. So I feel like they needed a better education instead of just an email round
Well, and some input,
the day before.
like not just, hey, we need a letter,
Right.
like someone should reach out to them and get their input
So they have the trail committee already?
in Daggett.
So
They
is this
don't have
part
a
of
club?
number 15 also, they can kind of connect it together, then 14 and 15 connected?
Both, yeah, both of them were presented the same way to us.
Okay.
So I think what we could do, Tommy, is Jason and I could probably speak to the chair of the Daggett County Trails Committee, and Rick can go and present up there and clarify any issues that can.
That'd be
And I
fantastic.
don't think it would be one that we couldn't apply for next round. I just think that we need a little more preparation on our end to figure out where it's gonna go.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, so we can lump those two together then, right?
And I guess I'll be presenting there.
15 as well.
Okay. So same exact.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's
Well, we
move,
haven't voted on 15, we need to go through it.
do we want?
Well,
what
we
is
either,
the
or
chair?
we could make, if, I could entertain a motion to have those discussed together separately. Or just,
I would just.
Or just
should we
vote
just
on
go
it.
through and vote on it?
Yeah, we can just, it solves the same end result. And we have faith in our two comrades.
Crazy eyes.
They'll take care of it.
I'll start with Brody.
So let me ask, is this is tied to those other trails, or is this totally, I'm still a little confused on this.
This is the advertising for those 3 trails.
No.
Okay. All right. Jason?
No.
Okay. Scott?
No.
Tommy?
No,
Tyson?
No.
Ed?
No.
Okay. Eric?
No.
Kurt?
No.
Ron?
No,
Carolyn?
No.
All right, so this is number 16. I want to say it's for the digital trail mapping Jamboree event app. Higher Desert Trail cultural clearance. This seems like it has 3 major components. It looks like they're asking for $189,000 for a total project total of $23,000. It is, so it looks like it's for tourism, other, and potentially trail work, because it does talk about the High Desert Trail that was talked about earlier. It does have 5 letters of support. I know Chris and I kind of did discuss this and thought that it could have been 2 applications instead of 1. But those were just our thoughts, and not that it.
I feel like they described it really well. There are a lot of applications that I can't, like, they have them all broken out very quickly.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it was one you could follow, even though it doesn't have a lot in it.
Right, I will say that as well. So again, this is for Beaver County, and as Chris spoke about, it does involve the High Desert Trail, which we saw earlier. Anything?
it's a lot of money for a map.
Before, haven't they?
They received a grant last quarter, but for a different project. So
Yeah.
This is more of developing a county-wide map, which is consistent with other counties around the state, Tooele, Garfield, et cetera, that produced that. And so I definitely value what Beaver County's trying to accomplish and be good stewards with their language.
Any thoughts on the cost?
The dollar amount's scary.
But there is no limit, I mean, currently with the fiscal incentive grant, people can.
And there's, yeah, not by guidelines, does it
Not a-
make me
Yeah, no,
nervous?
I know.
Just $75,000 for Google and social media ad buy.
Yeah.
Or, like, is it just me? That's an
a lot of money
enormous
for
amount
that.
of our budget.
I don't know.
I may take the council back, go back in time and remember this same discussion, and this council should remain consistent. We had a very similar application about social media advertising and content. It's probably the second or third quarter.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I feel the same now as I did then.
But I think there's aspects of the application that the council could consider and maybe find some additional validity or peel that aspect off and have them resubmit later. I think there's a number of different options to be explored.
I agree. You know, this is something that Beaver County's trying to do to get trails going down there. They're doing a great job so far. It is gonna tie into the high desert, but it's just a lot. As it's written to try to, I mean, where do we start?
I don't see any plan of action for what a Google search media influencer have.
Oh, you were excited about $45,000.
I think what it is an app that you drive through town
No,
that
they
does
they have the app for the $70,000 budget item. This is just outreach to journalists, influencers, and industry representatives.
Ooh, it could be me.
Michelle was trying to explain it to us at one time.
But I know what an influencer is. I'm just,
But I think as they're starting a new trail system, and everything else, they need to get all the support they can get.
I can see the validity in their need, and I agree with Eric's comments about what they're accomplishing and setting out to accomplish. Just don't agree that this is the way to go about it, dollar wise.
Like overall, are we okay with like items 1, 2, 4, and 5, but 3 is the $75,000 one is maybe the one that's giving folks the,
Sticky.
right? So are those other items all things people are feeling good about?
No,
No? So, I mean, it's mapping,
$45,000 for a printed pocket guy. And I can see a need for that, and a pocket guide when you're on a ride is really handy, because it's easy and simple, it's not some big gigantic map. It's the dollar amounts that I'm concerned about.
quantity.
Yeah, that's well.
I don't remember what they said quantity for that, because honestly, a lot of times if you're going to a printer, if you get a bigger quantity, you're gonna get a better price. So I don't know what quantity they're talking about.
Yeah.
For
I don't remember seeing,
I'm in here all
I don't
by
remember
myself,
seeing a
I'm-
quantity.
How time sensitive is this? Does the program know?
For their timeline for this?
Yeah.
Well, their jamboree takes place in May. So I think in order to consider how some things are
COVID.
at capacity because of, heard of this called COVID. So I think that there's some workability in through there. Obviously, they believe that it's a need now, hence the application. So I mean, we could ask that question and come back.
They've done a good
They have
job.
a, have a pretty detailed
Yeah.
timeline.
Yeah.
Month 1, 2 through 4, GIS data gathered and analyzed. Months 5 through 10, trail descriptions created, photographs. Months 10 through 14, they work on the guide. Month 19, the app goes live.
There's just, this is one of the questions in our evaluation form for applicants. The question asked, is there sufficient budget detail? I have a $75,000 line item that has no detail and no information.
1,000, not 100.
I'm not talking here, so definitely the 75,000.
I mean, if we go through the questions,
Say it wrong.
is the budget, project budget funding?
Yeah.
Is there sufficient budget detail? Can you answer yes or no? Is the source of all funding shown as a total requested dollar amount? Has the entity offered substantial matching funds? Does the match cover a project sponsor directly? Do all items listed qualify for funding under the program, or contingencies reasonable? Does the overall cost seem reasonable?
And that evaluation form is also posted on the website as well.
No, I understand.
Oh, no, I know.
Like, we are to use this as, are the estimates or price quotes for large purchases? And there are no estimates or price quotes for any of these budget items.
That was my question, is if we had a cost breakdown for at least GIS or the pocket.
That seems like a lot of money for GIS.
And we talked about that in the meeting you referred to.
So they
Some
filled
upper
out
mile
the
charge.
application, but they've not provided any supporting documentation, any financial matter, other than they want 185 grand. Yeah. Did they fulfill C1 of the requirements, which is an itemized budget of how they're going to spend that money? And my answer is no. Do I think the project has absolute validity? 100%. But how are they going to use it? What, if they're going to spend $185,000, they've already started the process of making contacts and getting budgets in place.
Can we have them come back with more information
I think
next
they need
quarter?
to, absolutely, 100%.
And just say, hey, we
Just
find
do
out
a
about
poll
it.
and get them to send back another, rewrite the budget and have it sent back.
We need to have estimates or proposals of where they're getting their budget
Yeah.
numbers from.
Especially based on the dollar amount requested.
Mhm. So
So do we just, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I would recommend that we pretty much, because
Probably
if
need to
we
vote on
I
it,
would-
but we should reach out to them.
vote on it and then reach out to them. I don't think that if, like, let's say, oh, well, if they give us an updated budget with new stuff and more information, I mean, what if the advisory council doesn't feel that that's, certain items are necessary? So I think that if anything, at the end of the day, they need to.
Pocket guides after the Jamboree, then we have that methodology and that process to do that. I think the Jamboree mobile app, as it says there, for 3 years, I think that's their own version of what we have as a Trails 360. I think they believe that they have a different delivery method that they would like to try and utilize, and you know, they're bringing $6,000 to that. I think that once again provides information, education to riders in the area to stay on designated trails, because there really isn't anything established by the land managing agency as far as a Beaver County map. There's the INVA map by the U.S. Forest Service and the BLM, and we all understand those are rather difficult and not very rider friendly to understand. And so I believe line item 4 has some merit to it in order to continue to market and demonstrate appropriate use for Beaver County. And then of course, the last one you've already heard me speak on behalf of number 5, which is the High Desert Trail. So to answer your question, Tommy, if I was a council member, I would go 20, 17, and 3 for a total of 45,000. That would be line item 2, line item 4, and line item 5. I just think that's a fair way to get them. They need some seed money, and I think you know, Kurt brings up a valid point. They want to get there. Let's help them get there, and this could be a good start.
We'd be able to do number two without doing number one. In this round, would we be actually funding number one so they can go out and collect the data, get the pictures, do the mapping, and then if they come back for the actual printing of the pocket guides.
I can't conceive it costs $45,000 to do that.
Well, I'm not saying we have to fund the full amount, but I'm just asking which one are we potentially putting the 20 to?
I thought that two was put to 20. Because then he said 17 and
They'd
3.
be able to print anything that they haven't done the work. Or maybe we're saying they do the work in-house and then.
I think what we're saying is there's not enough detail, but this gives them enough seed money to fall forward.
Okay, but they'd probably be starting with number one is what they'd be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not printing.
So what's the dollar amount we're gonna,
I would make a motion that we lower the funding amount to $45,000 until we see much further detail in the application. And then it allows them.
I would second that motion.
So what, was that a motion then?
Yes.
No, wait a second, did you say
Make
let them
sure.
use the 45 as they
We
need
reduce
it,
the total funding amount to $45,000.
to use it any way they want to in this process in here?
To get
Say,
started.
to start the
They need it.
project.
Okay, I like that.
And I'll second that motion. This is Tommy.
Cheryl?
Hi, Jason. Hi.
This is Scott, aye.
Eric, hi.
Ron, aye.
Tommy, aye.
Fred, aye.
First, aye.
So she's here? Okay, good.
Brody, aye.
Tyson, aye.
All right,
So now we go
so now we vote
All right, so we're
on
allowing.
the adjusted application,
at 45,000.
45,000.
Yeah, hey, Eric, you're up.
I'm up again.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, oh. Okay.
Whatever
I
you
thought you were
like.
like, yes, I'm up, okay.
Yes.
Kirk, Ron,
Yes.
Yes.
Cheryl. Nope, not yo-yo.
Right.
Brody,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
Ed.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Who did I forget? Oh, tell me.
Yes.
You want me to say yes twice?
No, you're okay. I'm like, who did I forget? Okay, all right. So, 17, this is for the OHV program Trail Crew. State OHV program, they're asking for $52,500 for a total request of $100,000. It is for trail work. They have 2 letters of support. I can field any questions on this that anyone has.
Can we vote on it?
Can we
This looks
vote
like
on it?
last year's live too, though.
Okay, all right. You want to go first? Kirk?
Yes,
Okay.
that's my vote.
Ron?
Yes.
Eric?
Wait a minute.
Hold on, question.
Cheryl has a question.
I just have a question. So it says the cast match is labor and projects complete by all 6 trail crew members. Is that just, is it more labor time or what did that? And projects completed by?
So, okay, so with the trail crew, right now, they currently have 2, but they want to get
Okay, and I get that, but they just got funding for trail crew. It's
the
52,000.
budget.
So then they've got another line that the budget item, I just wasn't sure what that budget item meant. It says labor and projects completed by all 6 trail crew members.
So keep in mind, this is the RTP application that the council
Yes.
funded and gave us the additional funding. And so what we did is we took the original application for RTP and we're saying, look, we're going to provide part of that. The overall budget should have indicated that it was the RTP match.
So it's just all trail crew funding days.
Correct.
Okay, I just didn't
It's just
understand what that
trail
line
crew-
item meant.
Trail crew
budget.
stuff
Okay,
stuff is what we're trying to do.
perfect,
To show, because we said, hey, we're gonna apply for a FIG for RTP, and then
perfect.
here's.
I just want to make sure it was more trail crew labor.
Yes
And based
and no.
on that additional
Yes.
information,
Great. Brody?
Yes.
Okay. Scott?
Yes.
Tommy?
yes.
Tyson?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Oh, who did I?
You're still off.
Off one.
Who
I'll say yes to Jason.
Been here since 8:30.
See, Eric gets too many turns. He all gets skipped.
Well, we're about to go the other way.
You ready?
Why is this not scrolling the other way? Okay, all right,
Now,
18,
all right, 19,
18.
18, I'm way ahead of myself. Yes, this is a UTV purchase for said trail crew. It's same exact people as the last time, $15,000, $30,000 total project trail work. I noticed that there were some weird things on the application. I don't know what happened. I don't know.
I just felt bad because I was like,
Oh, on the
are we
budget?
missing out good information? Like, it's got scrappily, like.
I
is
don't-
that the one that's got?
Yes, and I don't know what happened, and it was something that I noticed after, so.
There's no
person-
dollars related to it.
I mean, it's a great project. I just didn't know if we were missing like real
Well,
information that should have been.
So Brandon, who filled it out, he also sent me something, and it just like did not work, and I don't know if it's just because of like
COVID.
COVID, probably. I don't know what happened, but I was like, okay.
Okay,
So,
well, I thought there was
You need-
some other detail we needed.
yeah, do you want to vote on it?
Maybe.
All right, okay, so, Brody, I'm gonna have you start first.
Yes.
Okay, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, Scott,
Scott, yes.
why are things not writing? What is happening?
You're broke down.
I am broken down. What is happening? Chris doesn't do well after hours.
Tacos.
He turns real weird. Fair enough.
You had the coolest utensil.
Okay, so things are looking weird on my end, so I apologize. Okay, so Scott, you said yes, correct?
Yes, I did.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes,
Eric,
Yes.
Kirk. Kirk, no?
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
and then Joe. Okay. All right, so we have one last one from the OHV Advisory Council, well, OHV State Park. It is for the youth education specialist. This is for the person who is currently a seasonal. I believe it's to bring her on full-time? No, it's to employ a seasonal youth education specialist. Right now, she's in a different position. She's just a park ranger aide. So this would actually be creating a position for her so that she can manage this position. They're asking for $44,000 with a total ask of $97,200. It's trail work / education, and they have 3 letters of support. Any discussion?
It's for 2 years.
Yeah, so 22,000.
Oh, that poor girl.
What would some of their responsibilities be, just in a nutshell?
Those big dollar amounts a year.
What big dollar amounts? That's a laugh. I wish I was making big dollar. Yeah.
If just briefly, what's their responsibility?
Responsibility right now is what we basically have done is since, we moved towards a trail crew community, that education person is starting to absorb a little bit more of the trail host responsibilities. They're also reaching out to the health departments. Today, I asked that individual to create an education strategic plan for the program based upon the general strategic plan of the OHV program that most of us reviewed and brought to the table. I want to be able to go in and pinpoint exactly where we're going in the next 3 to 5 years when it comes to education. Well, we're going to Davis County this weekend and do a hospital safety fair. We're going to go over here and that's going to target campaign messaging and other items and futuristic additional partners. Where are we missing the window? Is it at dealerships? Is it at rental companies? We need some information here in order to give us a correct and accurate approach as we proceed. And it's also, we've been without staff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no secret in this room. We increased our staff in the OHV program by 33% last year by Rachel. So we went from 2 to 3. And so, you know,
Certainly not paid well.
we are now at a point where, through different processes, we're able to utilize seasonal. And I think that this is a
Huge step in the right direction.
well, this is the way to get out and try to prevent accidents and injuries. And it's a fellow employee that it's the project, so
Okay,
empowering them and letting them.
Should we vote? Vote on it?
Jason,
Yep.
I did not forget you, Jason.
I have a question.
Yeah,
So that person's going to be making $13.50 an hour.
That poor individual.
That's not even according to statistics, that's not even a wage in Utah. Can we up that, or do we not have the power to do that to like $15 an hour?
So let me kind of share with you, and I'm sure Cheryl can jump in here. Within state government, we have a window that's identified by specific positions. That is kind of on the high end of a park ranger aide of what they can make. And so we're doing the best we can with what we have. Unfortunately, it's just within the footprint that we're in. I wouldn't get too hung up on the dollar amount. I know that's a concern, and hey, but there may be other avenues in the future that open this up. We're trying to.
So I was just thinking long term that if you're going to put a lot of time and effort into training this person, they're going to become good at their job and then get paid $15 an hour at Chick-fil-A and with a lot less work. So that's just where I'm coming from.
We just don't have that.
Well, we're just seasonal labor.
this is a funner job though. There's
Sometimes
the
you have to
joy
start-
too, you get
Hey,
compensated.
she also gets Saturdays off, not just Sundays.
So I think
And she gets
the
to work
point of
great.
seasonal positions too.
I
they're
wanted her to work under me.
Right, a lot of times they are
That's what
entry level
five- right
positions,
there.
they're gaining experience, and they're creating an opportunity to recognize their need for said position, and then sometimes you're able to actually fill them on a not seasonal position once that need is demonstrated.
I just want to know if she's drawing unemployment.
Who?
No, I think we should vote.
Yeah, I agree.
This is, yeah, we can't.
Jason,
She'd make more.
Jason,
Yes.
you're up. Great.
Yes.
All right, Scott,
Yes.
Tommy,
Yes.
Tyson,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yeah.
Ron,
Yes.
and then Cheryl
Yes.
and Brody.
Yes.
All right, last one, everyone. Okay, this is for $8,000 with a project total of $13,000. This is coming from Rural Opportunities Venture. It's for reopening illegal roads. My notes on this is that it's for trail work. They have 2 letters of support, and then, yeah, that's it. Discussion? Questions I can field?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm curious.
No.
I don't
Go
know.
home.
I was gonna call him, and talk to him. I was gonna call and talk to Wade, and Wade's had a lot of communications with him. I went out with him. I don't know, it's like dealing with a monster, not him, but we're fighting. And I don't know how the best way to attack it. And maybe that's the wrong way to approach this obstacle out there, because there's a lot going on, and it is very frustrating dealing with the agencies out there and dealing with multi-million-dollar groups that can fight you. So, in the gist of things, it's not much money, but on the other end, what are you getting out of your product? Well, what are we getting? I don't know right now, other than he has spending time. I know that. So,
Are there specific trails that they're focusing on, or is it just in general?
Except they have to find them first, and then once they find them, then they'll get approval to work on them. So that was the part to me that I was a little confused on, is if we don't even know what trails. I don't know, I was curious on this one too.
Let me give you a little bit of background on this. The Santa Fe Desert is, when we went and first GPS stuff out there, we probably put 3,000 miles of linear features that we could find out there, which would include cow trails, wash bottoms, trail drones, whatever. And then we came up with about 900 legitimate miles of routes we thought that the BLM should consider. And actually, they considered about 900 miles and came up with a product of about 700 miles of routes that they felt could be kept open. Some of that loss was due to things beyond their control. All the wilderness, the new wilderness they put in there, closed some of the roads. Then after we got going on the project to go out and do some signage and marketing, we got shut down. But yet the other side was out reclaiming routes, putting boards and rocks in the road and breaking trails out. And so there was a lot of discussion and nothing's happened. They were able to reclaim routes out there that I'm not sure were legitimate open routes. But we felt that if they could go, we should be able to go out and mark the ones that were left open. And we got shut down on that by the government. So, like I said, in the gist of things, it's not a lot of money you're giving the guy. I can't say that what product we're getting out of it other than him spending some time out there and getting volunteers. Like I said, I spent some time out there with him. Wade spent a bunch of time out there with him. And
Did you say you did reach out to Wade, or you were unable to?
I did not talk to him about it. Wade's been very frustrated because he put a big project together and got shut down by the BLM.
At the last second.
And it wasn't the local BLM, it was up above. It came from Washington where we got shut down. And
This project specifically, though, is to go out and find these routes that should be open, that people are closing, and that you open them. Is that what I understand from this application?
I didn't quite understand what he was trying to accomplish there. I'm not sure they were reclaiming ones that were supposed to be closed, ones they thought were supposed to be closed. Like I said, I should have called and talked to him.
And I wish they had identified like certain trails that these ones have been identified, that these were closed incorrectly, and we already have the approval to go in and do the work. But I don't know, maybe it's a moving target. So it was just confusing to me.
Chris, do you have anything to add?
Obviously Scott has done a wonderful job of explaining what is occurring specifically. And I know Scott went right in the San Rafael Swell area. I guess I struggle as a program coordinator when I know the intent and the spirit, but when I see B roads, how is that an OHV program issue, and shouldn't there be more of a mutual partnership established there between the particular county that those B roads in, the nonprofit organization and the program? Because obviously the county is receiving some funding through UDOT for those B roads, and so that was one of the things, and you remember that discussion initially on fish. So I struggle with this because, like Cheryl has said, is that, hey, there is no, we don't know what areas, they are not identified. We don't know what roads. And so it's hard for me because how can we?
It's super important.
Help facilitate, because we know it's an issue, but we don't have enough information in order to say, hey, how do we dissect this? Who is the one that's going to So share the plan and say it's this, and maybe it's in there, I didn't see it.
The question was proposed is they'll send a trail specialist and staffers to perform route inventory work, and data collection on illegal closures. I think of this, from what you're saying, this may be where I stand is, if they have a route inventory that they are systematically monitoring, if they submitted that trail map, I think that would clear up a lot of what they're looking for and where they're looking. Because there is, the application says road, and then you get further into here and it's trails. And so what are the routes that they're inventorying, and what's the system that they're doing to make sure that those continue to stay open would be my question.
Some of the issue in this area is back about 15 years ago, because of just a lot of different things, the BLM says, hey, wait a second, we need to just kind of close the area and let it, we don't have time to do an inventory and a travel plan necessarily, so we're gonna just close and leave it open to these certain routes. For example, we had some desert race trails out there that were raced in the 80s, the mid 80s. And for a good 15, 18 years, you couldn't ride on them legally. Well, during that process, those trails went away. Plant life grew over, the wind blew and covered things up. And so when we went out to do an inventory, oh, there's no trail there. What's that? It's went away. It's reclaimed itself. And so he says it's closed. And they did that on a lot of different things. So could I go out there and show them where it's at? Yeah, I had GPS data. I could go out and say, see that little trail going through that? That's the desert race course. Well, they couldn't see that. And so there were other routes out there that had, over the years, kind of went away because we couldn't utilize them. And it was a process. Now, Sue is going in and says, well, you need to close that because you can't see that route anymore. Well, you can't see it because it's been 15 years since somebody's rode on it. And so this was the process, and I think Ben is trying to go, hey, there was a legitimate route there, and if you walk along there for a while, there's a dugway going up there, you can see it. You can see pieces and parts of it. Well, if you have a group going out there and trying to reclaim it and throwing dirt on it and rocks and bushes and stuff, it just speeds up that process. Now,
Could we reach out to him then and have him give us some specific trails or maybe a specific section of the San Rafael that they're gonna monitor?
That would be good.
Somebody needs to do this, or we're in trouble. This is, that's exactly what I was.
Or even some examples, if they can't give us a complete.
That would be great.
Show us 5 examples of what you're talking about.
And if that were the case, just me personally as a council member, I'd triple that dollar amount.
I agree. And this is one of those.
Like literally, not joking around. But there needs to be more specifics to it.
I can call him. What do we propose to do?
I mean, if they could submit another application that actually had like which trails, some.
But that's the problem, is he's trying to identify that trails that are closed.
As
So
part of this project.
If he's spending that much time out there, like Scott says, he knows which trails.
Geographic.
Or I bet he is.
That's what I mean, is instead of a trail,
Geographic
this
location
area
and
is
a few
what we're gonna
examples
focus
of the-
on for this dollar.
Yeah, listening to the group, each of us, Scott painted a really good picture of what the legal route is, but, before Scott's analogy, Fred would have had something different, Cheryl would have had something different, Kirk would have had something different, but now Scott painted the picture, we kind of know that. So, but once again, we go back to as a program coordinator, I struggle and say, well, we kind of need some more substance. Well, I don't think, any of us is disagreeing that this is not a worthwhile project. We're just, we need.
Specifics.
Yeah, we need a geographic area, and then when that is identified, I think it would be very healthy. Obviously, it is a requirement through the administrative process to report that. And then, we can come back and report that, and that's something that Rachel and I, futures, highlighting 2 to 3 previous projects at the beginning of each meeting. So that, when I let off and said I struggle with this, I did.
But if we reduce the amount of, with this process and request that the fly again, with documentation of what he's achieved. Because I don't think there's any, it's hard to go through this process with them when he's trying to identify, but give him some criteria that we need to see a geographic area. What lost trails he's worked with the budgeting he's had. I mean, you're talking 3 to 4 months.
If he was able to do that, working through Scott, knowing that he's met the qualifications, we're just asking for some specifics. I might suggest that the council say, hey, we'll consider this, but we're needing this type of information, and then as Rachel or Scott, whomever collects that and then provides that to Rachel, I think is the appropriate avenue after Scott makes the contact, then Rachel sends that out to the council.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So do we hold off on a dollar amount for now and do it?
I think you gotta go with what the information is in front of you. And then, keep in mind, there's 3 other quarters in this fiscal year.
I think the dollar amount's fine. I mean, it seems like you said pretty low actually, but I'd just like to have a better understanding. Yeah, where he's starting, what trails, because he's probably, I mean, they've already got to have some identified that they know they want to go look at, or that they know of that are maybe a problem, or, so I think getting us some of that, right? I think that's what people are saying they want to hear. I don't know the dollar amount's the problem.
Do you want to?
Would the council want to send him, I hate to say it's almost a lost leader, like this is not, need more details, here's enough to get you started. I mean, the dollar amount is
That's so small.
small.
Mm-hmm.
If we reduce it to $4,000 and has to apply next quarter with much more detail, we'd be willing to increase that substantially if we understood the project.
I think these guys are gonna have a hard time administratively
Making it work.
Yeah.
That may be the case.
without more information.
I think it would be easier to
Keep the dollar
follow,
amount.
keep it up, keep the dollar amount, and then follow up with them.
Contingent on
Yeah,
getting the
like
information
we've
that
done
we
in the
want.
past. Yeah.
So we could approve it contingent on
I'll say something.
he supplies the information.
That makes sense.
2 cycles ago, Chris asked me a question about defining success, some of the success that Ben had. And so I got a hold of him. I says, how are we going to define the success you're having with litigation of routes out there? And I told him, I says, you need to come up with a law maybe called CLIP also. You guys sit and put a definition together of determining success. How do you determine success of litigation of keeping something open? This begins, I think, another area of we want the most out of the money that we're spending. It's just like the one that wanted $180,000 in here, $189,000. I don't think we mind giving that money out if we get a product that's worth that much. And it's the same with anything that we fund. I'm not sure that the defining factor of what he's doing out there, it'd be something you can grab on and hold and say, hey, we got something there. It's very seldom that I can, over the last 40 years, I can go out and grab something and say, hey, this was successful. Man, we won on this one here. That very seldom happens out there it's a process of losing, a constant battle losing. Now, there was a run off the Big Ridge. I tell you what, that's one I was excited about. We won on that. And we need to have some more of those. And the only way we can have that is if we give some people some money. I think that's the only way it's going to happen. And frankly, I have spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours out there doing different things. And you get wore out after a while. You have to go back and say, wow, I got a business, or I got kids. I'm married. My wife, I need to go visit her once in a while and stuff. And so you need full time people that are doing this.
Where is she? A mess?
It's like I told Cliff. Cliff needs a staff, but where are you going to get the money from? Ben needs a staff that he can pay and he can afford. So again, I can call him and talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, if you want me to be part of that conversation, I'd be on it. Just to kind of understand, get a feel for, I think there's some merit, but I struggle. I really do.
When I read it, I go,
I wish they would have wrote that differently.
But it
Well-
does fulfill the intent. The intent.
We just need more information, so
Yeah.
that you guys can manage it.
So what we doing?
Let's vote on it.
Yep. So-
As it stands?
No, with more information provided.
Okay.
So, yeah, definitely.
Before we decide, if we're gonna ask for more information, you need to entertain a motion to do so.
So we're gonna just table this then?
No,
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 I would accept a motion to require him to
More
provide more
specific data.
specific information.
So we
On the
might have to
trails.
apply next.
No.
cycle.
No, we could approve it.
no.
Oh, okay.
But the
Subject to
actual
receiving. the-
Yeah,
Administratively,
just one-on-one.
Rachel will require what we,
So I'll make a motion that we vote on the application as it is for the current dollar amount,
Mhm.
with the need for the applicant to provide the additional information requested by the council.
I will second that motion. Kirk?
Sure.
Jason. Scott, aye. Eric, aye.
Ron, I.
Tommy, I.
Fred, aye.
Brody, aye.
Tyson, I.
Okay,
All right,
Vote.
Alright.
let's vote now on the,
Scott, you're first.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. All right, Tommy,
Aye.
who is that? Let me see.
Yeah.
Tyson,
Aye.
Fred,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye. Yes.
Kurt,
Aye. Yes.
Ron,
aye.
Cheryl.
Aye.
Brody,
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Great. Okay. We're a half hour over our ending time. We funded,
We can open up then?
huh, I wish, a little over $500,000 of the grants today. So, there's two other items. Do we want to push those back?
Well, real quick, let's take care of, I'd accept the motion to approve the May 19th minutes that we discussed at the beginning of the meeting.
I propose that we approve the minutes from the May 19th meeting. This is Kirk.
This is Eric, I'll second it. Can you keep the microphone?
Cheryl?
Aye. Scott, aye. Eric, aye.
Ron, aye.
Tommy, I.
Fred, aye.
Brody, aye.
Tyson, I.
Is that it? That's it.
I think so. Seconded, sorry, I didn't catch it.
I did, Eric.
All right, since we're over on our time, we have on our agenda council member reports. Do we want to go through each council member, or is there somebody that wants to report something out of, what do you guys think? We just do an open, if there's something you feel like you need to report, instead of spending 5 minutes each? Can we do that?
What would you like us to report?
I can start with a list.
Whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, tables are ordered for the one grant, the Fillmore grant, 11 tables. Kiosks are all finalized. I went to Phoenix and picked them up. We're doing a banquet in September that I'm in charge of. The Friends of the Bayou.
The Utah Cinema Association puts out the grant.
Anything else from any other council members?
I just add, I did have a call with our regional trails coordinator. I updated him a little bit about some of the challenges and also the successes of the Forest Service applications through both FIG and RTP. I'm hoping this fall, Chris, that maybe we'll be able to coordinate some dates where some of the trail managers can get more information. I told him that I feel like the Forest Service is treating FIG very similar to RTP, and I think there's a lot of work that can be done in FIG, and that we want to see more projects. I heard that from the council loud and clear. So I did talk to him about that. We'll try to get something set up this fall. So people can start thinking through that a little bit more. As far as like today, we talked about that desert trails system. I would just say those systems matter. The Great Western Trail, the Bonneville Shoreline Trails, the Strawberry systems. And I'll just give an example with that Great American Outdoors Act funding that came through for trail projects. One of the things that they like to see is whether or not they're part of a national or regional trail system. It helps them bring down higher. So the things that you guys are doing on this council, they do matter as far as even us agencies being able to go get additional funds. So just thanks for the work. But I think those are some of my main updates. We're getting things done. We had Chris come out and see the equipment training we did here on our forest. And we brought big, what was that? And yeah, Rachel and Chris both came out. It was awesome to have them out there for that equipment training. And then we did also highlight big in our forest.
You got it on your book
So about the stroke project.
this year?
So anyways, that's my stuff we got going on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
Oh,
guys.
I'm patient.
Anyone else have anything?
One item that was discussed with the association on the Snowmobile side is moving our registration dollars to pool in the OHV programs and increasing those registration dollars. And everyone on the association board was in favor of that. So
it would be very similar, like what you're seeing on the rubber tired side, the track. The dollar amount would not be obviously as large. But still, what we equate 350,000, which, 24,000 registered snowmobiles. And that provides that additional.
All right.
I got one other comment that the one grant that we didn't really go through is going to be a major problem in all the areas if we don't do something about it now. Because what it is the towns are all of a sudden getting mad and trying to close them down. If we don't start educating the people coming through them. Because I know another town now that applied that they didn't get it signed. But there's a big problem there, the noise and everything else. We have one that's similar to what Moab went through. So we're gonna have to start addressing it as a whole group. Whether it's commercials, whether it's social media, whatever it is. We're having a big problem with barriers. Hold up the one the other day, took the hacksaw and cut off her steel barrier. Cut it right in half. And then stuck a stick down in it and stuck it over it. Huh?
So we're replacing gates and locks and things at an all-time rate because everyone opens early for us in the season. And I mean, it doesn't matter what reason it is. It's just, that's a thing happening all over.
So anyway, I just know that something will need to be done because it's coming at us.
One comment I would make, just to just all of that from a retail level in this industry, we're at a really strange place. There is, I go to the dealership that sells quite a few machines, and probably 35 to 40% are being sold to people that have never owned a machine. They don't have the slightest idea about trail etiquette or how to not pull up into a parking area trailhead and just park in the middle of it. I don't know exactly how we're going to address that going forward. Everyone blamed it on COVID and all the new people and all of that. That's not the only thing that's happened. All of these new people have been introduced to this sport, and they are not going to go away. Everybody said, oh, it'll only last, through last summer. That's not the case. These people that have now discovered this treasure, it's only going to grow and grow exponentially based on that. And I don't know if as a council, we need to maybe start thinking towards that end and maybe some type of a campaign or slogan or a way to help try and educate each other as veteran users to help, you know, we're not gonna pound common sense into somebody's head, but we need to at least have it on our minds, I think.
This is Brody. Can I just make one comment in regards to that? We had, there's a couple of big Facebook pages in Utah that focus on the OHV community. And on occasion, some of these big Facebook pages here in Utah, pictures get in of these OHV machines riding in places that they shouldn't be riding where there are no trails, riding in the mud and just tearing up the things like that. And when you try to call them on it, you get harassed. And so what we need to, one little thing that we could probably do is to reach out to the administrators of some of these Facebook pages and help them, have them kind of moderate a little bit better what is being posted on these 20,000 plus member Facebook pages with glorifying people riding where they shouldn't and doing things that they shouldn't. And so that's just one little thing that maybe we could do.
We also have people come into our office and report posts like that a lot, and I know our office will, our law enforcement officers will follow up on some of those kinds of posts. I mean, we've had several reports come back from 4-wheel drive groups or things, because obviously you guys are all on different sites, and I mean, again, it probably does better to have some of that policing within the groups, but sometimes it's extreme enough that it warrants, you know, at least passing that information on.
So we also, the Pike Trail Committee, put up $1,000 for anybody off the trail and that stuff.
Reward.
Trying to get some of them to get turned in so we can try to put a stop to it.
Education.
So I guess I come back to a lot of this and circle back around and say it, you know, you bring up a legitimate thing. It's something that we've known for about 12 months. Let's be honest. So I think we all have a hand in this, whether it's policing our neighbor, sharing information with our relative. And I don't mean to cause any hardship when I say the statement. We got to notify our local law enforcement. You got to make the call, and land managers need to figure out a way in order to prioritize with their LEO the focus. And when you only have 5 or 6 LEOs across the state, well, there's other mechanisms to try to help pursue that, checkpoint, saturation controls, things along those lines. I think it's very similar like what Brody talked about. Hey, you know, we have large groups. Well, we all know when the dirty, nasty rangers show up and we do a saturation patrol, guess what? Nobody shows up in that area for a while because they may know that they've done something illegal or they've heard of a friend. And so that fear factor goes out. That's only a short-lived deterrent. It doesn't change people's behavior. No, and so we are also part of that process. And most of you have heard me say this before, is that we have to be part of the solution. So talking a little bit about this seasonal person to focus on specific plans and identify those. Do we put together a 3rd sheet checklist? Do we need to go something mandatory through legislation? I don't believe so. I think all of us, for the survival and to continue to keep people on designated routes and be ambassadors of the sport, when people are cutting down gates of their own trail system and they're destroying their own trails, how are we ever going to be able to look at the enemy across and say, well, we deserve this trail? Well, we can't even manage our own that's open now. And so it's a very difficult situation we're in because the people don't know. And you know, for me, that was in law enforcement for 19 years or so. To me, that was never an excuse. Sorry, it just wasn't. But now we are in that world where people literally, they don't know.
Yeah.
And yes, some people will do the resources and stuff, and so, or the research and things along those lines. And so that's why I think it's an imperative that by having this position, that's why I issued the challenge today we got to have something in place. And I don't know if that's a third sheet that goes into a bill of sale, that dealers are willing to do that. I don't know if it's, tabletop items at rental dealership, at rental companies. I don't know if it's a better job of plastering billboards and kiosks with positive information.
Bolstering our volunteers, our clubs, our associations. I feel like I've said that for a long time. I feel like if we can figure out a way to make it more than just a passion project for people. I mean, obviously they're volunteers, but there's a lot of states where like their volunteers can get on there and have access to all sorts of, discounts, pro deals, like because they're putting in a certain amount of hours.
Value.
I mean, personally, like I work with a ton of different groups, clubs, associations, and just working with their members and seeing the way that they understand land management, trails, working with other users, they get it, right? Because they're part of something, and those messages are taught in those groups. They're a huge part of it.
But and it's something that we can't force upon people, because I think that'll further
Drive the divide.
Yeah. So, one of the things I've been thinking of is that there's across the aisle, there's what's called, and I know I'm gonna get the names wrong, you may have to help a little bit. I want to say like trail interns, but they're not. They're actually mentors.
Yeah.
So I've been really toying around the back of my mind of creating a motorized mentorship type program where people like yourselves are taking new people out. And most of you probably remember the first time you were introduced to motorized recreation.
I can't remember back that far.
I can't remember what happened starting at 5 today. So, but I think those mentorship opportunities may put some value and resurrect that. It's not I don't think it's the younger generation. I mean, they're obviously their families are buying machines, but I think it's more people in line with us. They have discretionary income. They've heard about this, and so now they want to get out and enjoy that. And we've all been there. We've been taken to a trail, our first trail ride. We probably remember that. And that's probably sometimes where we go back and frequent that a lot because we're familiar with it. It's just like when someone takes us camping for the first time. We go to that same campsite. So we are at a crossing point where we have to find the right person, I believe, to be able to sell that to that group. But I don't know that group following. I don't know if they're, Instagram cracker or their face pages or their Twitter bug or whatever they're following or whatever app. I don't know that there's a particular area to zero in on or focus that dollar amount on trying to formulate some of that education. And so I think, working like with the Office of Tourism on some of the things that they've done this year out of our program and their program, I'm trying to see some of those opportunities that come our way. Like Thursday, I'm being interviewed on national TV with the University of Utah Primary Children's Hospital, University of Utah Primary Children's Hospital with Me TV out of Chicago. And so, a different type of partnership that we're trying to align ourselves with and get into some different notoriety. I think we're a little overshadowed now with a lot of things. People are coming in off of COVID. The economy's good. People are feeling good. They're getting back to some of their routines. They're seeing people face to face. And I think this is kind of down on people's priority list. But certainly we got to try to devise a way to help solve some of the problems. I don't know what the answer is.
Maybe start with the message and then figure out how to deliver it.
Well, our current message now is why we ride, and we can incorporate something along those, along those items. Of course, we're focusing on the 15th anniversary.
Think that means we're done, Brody?
That's what I was wondering. It just kind of, maybe they ran out of time, or I don't know.
We're only 2 hours late.
Exactly. Yeah, I say I'm done.
Oh, they're back.
Maybe they're back.
Good.
Are we back?
I can say, working with DMV in the past on trying to do those specific type of messages are somewhat difficult. We may be able to go with the email. Because, the cards are coming back that you get in the mail. We may be able to ask them if they're willing or to place something in there. But it's gonna have to be short and brief and something that catches someone's eye, and they're gonna have to wanna take it.
A lot of these new people want information. Like they're hungry to understand and learn how it works.
So I'm gonna challenge you. I was like, oh no, well, I know, and I know who you work for would probably actually like the idea. So I'm pitching out, what if we were to hold an open house for anyone that's previously ordered or purchased a machine since January this year? And at this open house, we're gonna have tabletop discussions with some of the leaders in the industry, maybe someone on mechanics, how to what, that maintenance type of thing, yes, exactly. And then we're gonna have a trail host person there that discusses how to become involved in the trail host. Then we have a program manager or representative thereof that discusses youth education courses and elements and laws, or we have, so there's 4 or 5 different stations that the people can go through and do a self-guiding experience on their own, but they're all tabletop discussions with no video and carrying on a conversation with people.
When you want to start?
Yesterday.
I'm busy. I have an OHV advisory council meeting on Saturday.
Yeah.
That was supposed to end at
There's a
8.
centralized location that lists all of the different clubs, associations. Do you have?
OHV, I need to contact it.
It's on there, so can you go by geographic area to find out?
So on that particular club list that you're looking for, I would scroll all the way over the right-hand side and go.
Okay.
And there's 5 or 6, 7 tabs underneath there that lists specific information.
Well, because even if we could do more to get that information out and in front of people, because you think about it, that's putting them in contact with a whole bunch of people that are already in contact and, how do we make more people aware of that site and have it be where they can find out how do you get involved with the, things on four-wheel drive certification. I see a lot of clubs that they have your same 10 people that are showing up, but man, there's so many people that I think would get involved that they understood.
Especially right now.
Yeah, that those existed and that you could get mentorship in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's how do you encourage the others, but how do we get that in front of people, right? When you're talking messaging, that in front of people.
Credit to Rocky Mountain guys, their YouTube channel is pretty high traffic.
It is.
And they do a lot of training videos just like that for driving, things like that.
Yeah, so that's good information, Jason. I'm gonna ask Eric, can you want to adjourn the meeting? That's everybody clear.
Kind of part of the meeting. I
That's kind of part of the
miss this
meeting.
part of the meeting.
I mean, I say that kids are, my kids, 40 years old, sit there and they go through all the videos on Facebook. Well, there's ad after ad after ad on almost every one of them. They sit there and watch them. They're only, 10-second ad.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what we've been talking about is our own self is, 15 to 20 seconds. But what I was wondering is, if we grasp some of those tutorial videos that Jason's talking about, that Rocky Mountain ATDMC's put together, and run those through our YouTube channel?
I am sure.
I don't know, I don't know about the copyright issues, if we're able to utilize those, if Rocky Mountain ATDMC is willing to share with us.
Sure, we want a lot of people to see it. So whatever it is, I can.
Well, we have 3 people that follow us.
Well, but I'll also give that company credit. I think that at one point they've sent out several emails to their customer list about trail etiquette and not riding on wet trails. And I think it's a great example of what industry can bring to the table for helping with education as well.
And what I'm thinking of is now that my brain's starting to think a little bit, the gerbils are in there, is focusing on the people that in the dealerships.
Yeah.
And not Jordan's, but, and I'm not being mean when I say this, I don't know how much resources we want to exhaust, say, an example of a beaver. Those are probably repeat customers, but here is where the new pickers are originating.
I know there's a guy in Aurora that just opened up a new rental place. And he's got GPSs on every one of the machines, and he takes, get a $5,000 deposit, and if they go off where they're not supposed to, he's digging them for it and everything else.
Wow,
Policing ourselves.
that's awesome. That's pretty cool.
So,
Okay, we
send
good?
the machines in.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, we're out of meeting.
All right.
Aye.
Walker Mountain,
Aye.
I want you to, Rachel,
Yes.
put on Chris's notepad that he has to go to Parker Mountain.
Parker Mountain, I sent those messages out.
Here he is.
Because he ignores me.
Okay, he knows. Yeah, I have a couple of those actually.
So are we adjourned, Rachel? Rachel, are we adjourned?
Hey, Paul, are we good?
We are good. We will shut down the link and recording.
All right, see ya.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Yep.
Yeah. It is.